We are your home theater and AV questions answered. This is AVRant. Want your home theater or AV question answered by Tom and Rob? Send it to question@avrant.com. Welcome to another edition of AVRant. I'm Tom Andrew, and I'm here with
Rob H. This is AVRant. It's your home theater and AV questions answered. It's been mildly, again, compared to the rest of many other places, really not too bad where I'm living, but it's been mildly uncomfortable. It has been a little stinging of the nostrils and the eyes as of late. Had quite a legitimate scare in our lower mainland, because when you hear about all of the major forest fires and everything that happens in the province of British Columbia, predominantly every year that's farther north, the actual lower mainland where the majority of people live in British Columbia. Population-wise, that's basically right next to the U.S. border, southernmost part, and we typically don't have the forest fires actually licking right around in our neighborhoods, but one of them got really close to sort of our northernmost city that's like part of the full-on lower mainland proper. So thankfully that was quite small and they managed to contain that, but it's encroaching ever closer and closer to the major population center, and yes, the smoke was definitely noticeable. So it's been a little bit tense, been a little bit hairy around here as far as natural disaster stuff goes this time of the year. There it is.
Yeah, it's just normal hot here.
Right.
So, yeah. It's not been anything.
I mean, it's not like Florida ever gets natural disasters. You've never experienced something destructive like that. Just
land paradise. People move down here to
nothing in recent memory
get away
whatsoever.
from all that stuff. Yeah. Never been a weather event in this area.
Right. Yeah.
Yes. Going ons of this week. School started today for my son. So his last year of high school starts today. Apparently he didn't sleep last night because I guess he was so excited about it. That's not what he's going to say, but that's what I'm going to say.
It always feels so weird for me, like having school starting for kids, like not even mid-August. It's early August and it's already starting. Because here, school never starts until the day after Labor Day. We said
that
Labor
was
Day and
traditional too.
Yeah.
Here, there's a couple of reasons for it. They moved everything up so that you would finish the semester before winter break.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, it wasn't uncommon to get 2 weeks off for your winter break and then have to come back and take finals like a week after that for the semester, which was crappy.
It is.
Often you were given assignments too, like projects that were due at the end, and that was also super crappy, and nobody liked that. On top of that, here we have hurricane days that have to be built into the schedule, so like it's about a week's worth, maybe a couple days more than that, of days that are just extra holiday days that can be taken back. You would call them teacher, like they would be called if there's no hurricane, like there wasn't last year. They would be called like teacher in service days or whatever, and the kids would all not have to go to school.
We call them Pro D days around here, professional development days.
So whatever. But yeah, so they go back very early, which I don't mind. That's fine. It is what it is.
How do the kids feel about it, though?
I don't care. I don't care.
You're
the
not
rest
them.
of us are like, get out.
Get out
You've
of my
been
house.
home for too long, and you suck. I love my son. I love all my sons, but this age, he's just turned 17.
Mm-hmm.
It is not there's a long stretch between the big onset of puberty and I haven't figured out when it ends, where they kind of are obnoxious.
Right?
So we're still working through that. The older ones are starting to figure it out, but he is in the throes of puberty.
Yep.
So
that's fair enough.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun for us.
All right.
And as somebody who went through it himself, and I can look back on my life and go, ugh, boy, I kind of have this coming, don't I?
Counting down the days / weeks / years as it carries on.
Yeah, so it's been just a week of prepping for that. Next week, I think I'll be here for the podcast. I might be late. We're going out of town next weekend, and I think we're coming back on Tuesday. My wife has to be at work by 1.
Okay.
So we may be starting the podcast a couple hours late, or you can find somebody else that works too. It's up to you. We'll talk about it after the podcast.
We'll see.
We're going out of town. We're going to go see some friends in someplace. I don't know where it is. I forgot. But anyways, we're driving. It's like 4 hours away, so it must be
within the U.S. then.
Within Florida.
Yes.
4 hours is still in Florida.
No borders being crossed.
No borders being crossed. The free state of Florida. They changed all the signs. It's very obnoxious.
Yeah.
So that's what's going on with me. What's going on with you?
I mean, aside from what I mentioned at the top there, a little bit of good news, very, very, very minor. So the closest place from my apartment where I can literally just walk 2 blocks and get some supplies, there's a dollar store, like just 2 blocks away from me. And normally, for most of the things I do in my weekly shopping, I go out to the local grocery store, and that's what I've been doing lately. So anyway, I don't drink a whole lot of like soda pop, but I like to have a bottle of Diet Coke around, just for the rare occasions that I do want some, or somebody's over and wants some. So yeah, I just ran out to the dollar store for that, and I was like, oh crap. Last time I was at a grocery store, I forgot to buy toilet paper. So I'm like, might as well grab some toilet paper at the dollar store. I was like, how bad is this going to be? But I'm like, whatever, I'm here, and they only sell them in 6-packs at the dollar store anyway. And so I'm looking at that, and so like most other places these days, you can't get single roll toilet paper. They're all the double roll toilet paper. That's the only thing they sell anymore is the double roll. And this one is like, oh, this is the like extra strong, extra soft, 6 rolls, double rolls toilet paper. And I'm like, okay, how bad could it possibly be? Brand I've never seen before, literally the brand Fluffy. I'm like, okay, whatever. Toilet paper.
Off-brand toilet paper is sketchy as heck. I don't know why we're talking about this, but go on.
It's just because. So normal ones I buy, I don't buy like the fanciest. The toilet paper can get ridiculously expensive these days. There's some out there. You buy the 12 double rolls, and it's like over $15 is available out there. And I usually go for the ones that are right around $10. And this one was 6 double rolls, $2.50. That's Canadian. $2.50. I was like, wow, that is cheap. That is cheap toilet paper. Tom, best toilet paper I've ever used.
All right.
I'm like, what is going on here?
I'll be honest with you. I do not skimp on toilet paper. I don't know why we're talking about this. I have a lot of feelings about it. I do not skimp.
It was
I
just
get
very,
name
very
brand
unexpected.
good stuff. I buy it in bulk from Sam's, but I get all this extra strong stuff. I'm not looking for sandpaper. I'm looking for some. Hey, you can break apart in my hand as long as you're soft while you do it. I'm looking for comfort.
This was labeled both extra strong, extra soft.
It can't be both those things. I'm sorry.
I don't know. That's what it was labeled. It had both of the. But downright, it's the cheapest toilet paper I've ever bought. It's the best toilet paper I've ever bought. I'm like, so what are we supposed to do? Because, I mean, the dollar store is supposed to be kind of like place of last resort. I literally go there because it's the place I can walk to 2 blocks away. It's utterly unnecessary to get on any form of transportation. It's very, very convenient. And yes, bottles of Diet Coke are cheaper there than anywhere else as well. But it's like, but you're also offering the best product? Like, how did this happen? What is going on? I guess this is what I'm doing from now on. I'm buying my toilet paper at the dollar store. I never expected it.
Better
it was a measure
now
of last
resort. It still
resort.
costs $1 or whatever.
Well, it's $2.50 because I mean to charge $1 Canadian, I think you would get 1 roll. Although apparently not at the dollar store. Maybe you could get 3. Who knows? Maybe they could do that. But yes, it's just highly unexpected. So I don't know. I'm feeling conflicted about it because I'm like I don't want to be the person who buys purely based on price, like drive all of the regular retail stores completely out of business because there's some place that's willing to, I don't know, do a loss leader on items like that and just completely make, capitalism crumble as though it hasn't already. But it was also the best product. And I'm like, why?
There you go.
What happened? What's going on here?
All right. So how are we going to do this what we watch section, since I actually watched stuff this week?
Yes, you did. I mean, yours is the most fancy, so should we leave that for last?
Yeah, I think so. Let's go with you first.
Okay. So I actually did have plans in place to go see the movie that Tom is going to be talking about, but plans fell through. And so I don't get to share in on everything that Tom is going to talk about. But that doesn't mean I didn't watch anything this week. I saw one movie, which is H is for Hawk. That's the title of the movie. Came out in 2025. Small, low-budget movie, indie film. let's see here. It's a memoir by Helen Macdonald, adaptation of a memoir, and it is a straight-ahead drama, which I was in the mood for. I'm like, I just want to watch a straight-ahead drama.
Not a single word that's come out of your mouth so far has made me want to watch this movie. Go on.
Okay. That's totally fine. It is autobiographical for sure, and Helen herself is the main character, and she is played by Claire Foy, who is excellent in this movie, and this movie is excellent. I really, really liked this movie. H is for Hawk. Now, clearly, it is not going to be anything action. It's a straight ahead drama. Can't stress that enough. And it is not a happy movie. It is it is dealing with grief. It's dealing with the subject of grief, but it does it really, really well. And there are some moments of levity and humor, like there are in real life. You know, you're going through grief in real life and you end up burst out laughing at something, and that is depicted here in a very realistic and understandable and way that I can absolutely feel connected to these characters. So yeah, great performances all around here. Brendan Gleeson is here, and Lindsay Duncan. They're playing the parents of Claire Foy's character, and then Denise Gough. Have to mention her because she was Dedra Miro in Andor. Okay. Yeah, so she was the Empire woman who was going after Andor the entire series with her incredible frowny face that everybody enjoyed, but she's a absolutely detestable character in that show. Maybe the most loathsome character that Star Wars might have ever had, although strangely you're kind of also hoping for her to keep advancing in her career because that show is so well written. But watching her in this movie, amazing performance that she puts on here. The best friend there has ever been. I mean, how true to life this really is, since this is based on a true story and it is autobiographical. And obviously the way Helen Macdonald, the real Helen Macdonald, not the character in the movie, but in real life, felt about her friend, and maybe this was an amalgamation of several friends or something like that, but what we're seeing in this movie is a depiction of how she clearly felt about her friend in real life, and this is the best darn friend you've ever seen in the whole world, and having Denise Gough play her was really quite refreshing and fun, because we get to see a completely different side of the actress Denise Gough playing a completely different role from her most famous role.
She might have told her agent, listen, find me something where I'm upbeat.
Where people aren't going to hate me from beginning to end. Yes.
I really like playing the villain, but I don't want to just play the villain. Yeah, I think that the actors do that quite often, but go on.
It could be. So the reason this movie is titled H is for Hawk is because in the midst of the grief that Helen, the main character, is going through, she becomes fixated. She had done some falconry in the past. She was an amateur falconer, but hadn't done so for 5-6 years at the point, and now she is in the midst of this grief, and she becomes fixated on not just getting back into falconry, but going for one of the most difficult birds you could possibly ever hope to train and connect with, which is a goshawk. And so that has a different term. It's not a falconer anymore, of course, when it's a hawk, and there's quite a bit of explaining the significant differences between being a falconer and dealing with a hawk instead. But what was really interesting here, there's no CGI going on in this movie. It's a low-budget film. They're not doing that. So Claire Foy really had to train and learn how to work with what seemed to be, the best trained hawk I've ever seen in my life, because this thing acts. It gives an amazing performance in this movie. Does the real-life hawk that is for real sitting there on Claire Foy's arm throughout a huge amount of this movie. And they did a great job in this of, my goodness, was I tense. I was just tense throughout huge portions of this movie, because that bird is terrifying. There's a reason they are called raptors, and it's holy crow, could that thing absolutely scratch you to death and rip your eyes out in a moment's notice. And that was a real bird sitting there with Claire Foy and other actors in the scenes, and it was just very, very tense that at any moment this thing could just utterly destroy everyone in this room without any problem whatsoever for that bird. So Yeah, I mean, I thought the performances were great. I mentioned before when I was watching Severance how I thought it was really interesting, one of those episodes, something I hadn't seen before up to that point, which was, we're familiar with the 5 stages of grief and progressing through those, and how you don't always go through them in exactly that order, and sometimes you waffle back and forth sometimes or get stuck somewhere. And I hadn't seen a lot of shows or movies that depicted being stuck at the bargaining phase. I thought that one of the episodes of Severance that was novel to me at the time. Well, here's another example. Really interesting that here's another example. The whole movie, this character is basically stuck at the bargaining phase of grief. And you really get that sense because everything, the progression of connecting with this hawk and training it, everything is that like, well, if I can just do this, then I'll feel this much more accomplished. And if I can just do this, I'll feel this much more safe. And if I can just do this, so just fixated and stuck at that bargaining phase of grief and unable to move on from it. But then having this physical manifestation right there that you can't ignore, and you can't just let it go about and do its own thing, has to be constantly managed and trained. And so I thought just having that physical manifestation of a stage of grief was, again, a depiction I hadn't seen before, and I found it really, really fascinating and really well done. Then on the technical side of things, gotta mention, shot in a 1.66 to 1 aspect ratio, a little bit unusual. So you've got some thin pillar box bars on the left and right because it's a little bit taller than 1.78. 16 by 9 is 1.66, but not a standard aspect ratio. So that was just kind of interesting to see on its own. I watched this movie on, what the heck service was this on? Was this on Crave? Yes, it was on Crave. So again, it was 4K, but not with HDR and not with Atmos. But some of the photography in this movie, gotta give a shout out to the director, who was Philippa Lothorpe, who also co-wrote the screenplay of this movie. Some of the scenes here are like very impressive nature documentary type footage, and some of the, I guess you could kind of call them action shots, which happened for real. Again, there's no CGI in this movie. That hawk, I haven't seen a bird of that size flying so fast, so close to the ground. It was really quite remarkable. And getting these amazingly in focus shots of it, like it's got its wings spread, it's centimeters above the ground because it's hunting like squirrels and rabbits and things like that. And it's going so fast, so close to the ground, and then it'll come, to a bush or a bramble or next to a tree, and it tucks its wings right next to its body, slides through the narrowest gap that this bird could possibly fit, which clearly happened for real, somehow doesn't crash into the ground or into anything that is flying through as it does. I was like, how did they get these shots? How does this bird do it? It was amazing. It's nature on display, but it was amazing stuff to see. So yeah, unexpectedly, I loved this movie. I really recommend it. Don't go into it thinking that it's going to be like happy, because it is grief and it is dealing with it in a very real way, but it's not maudlin. It's not over the top. I thought it was interesting. I thought it was really well done. And so I give a big, big thumbs up to H's for Hawk. Check it out if you had never heard of it before. And yeah, I think it's well worth a watch.
All right. What did I watch? So let's start with the older movie. So 2014, it was released. It's Ex Machina. My wife and I were... It was early in the evening, and we already walked the dogs, which is usually the big limiting factor because whatever. But it was going to rain, so we walked them early. And we were kind of sitting around. She's like, well, maybe we can watch a movie. I was like, sure. She's like, well, how do we figure out what movie we're going to watch? I'm like, you're going to figure out what movie we're going to watch, because if I pick the movie, you'll just fall asleep. Or I'll sit there and try to explain the whole thing to you so that you can be caught up on it. I'm like, you're going to pick a movie that you're interested in.
Okay.
So we went through our I guess it's called Fandango now. It was Voodoo before,
yes, right.
And we just kind of flipped through, and she would say, "What's that?" And look at it, and she'd go, "Oh, that's 2.5 hours. I don't want to watch that." Blah blah blah. She's like doing math, all that stuff. So we get to Ex Machina, which is with Oscar Isaac and the other two people. the woman who was in the newer release, the newest Tomb Raider, who I really liked. I liked her in that, and I liked her in this, obviously. And then that dude. Anyways, they're all there.
Domhnall Gleeson. I remember his name.
Yes,
and,
I remember it was something I looked at and went, I'm not even gonna try to pronounce that. So we watched that, and I was like, I had already seen it. It's been a while, but I'd already seen it. And I was like, this is going to be a movie. I'm like, there's only a couple of characters in it. You'll be able to follow it. I said it's a little tense, a little weird, but you might like it. I said, but it's going to be tense, and she doesn't usually like tense. And she's like, oh, this looks interesting. Let's watch that. And she did like it. So we watched Ex Machina, which I hadn't seen in a really long time. And I got to see it the second time, which was... There's a couple of scenes in that movie, if you haven't seen it, where through the first run through, you're like, why is this happening? This doesn't make sense. Like this, there's a dancing scene in particular that I was like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, what is actually happening?
You got to watch Oscar Isaac dance, so why not? When is that ever the wrong thing?
So I very much, the second time around, I knew, I had forgotten that scene happened. But when it happened, I remember going, oh, this makes so much more sense in the second go around. Very good movie, still a good movie. In light of... current advancements in what they're calling AI,
I had forgotten.
It hits completely differently.
2014, it's going back a ways. It's still very timely, still very, very much in the zeitgeist. Alicia Vikander, by the way, playing the.
She's excellent. She's so good. She should be in more things.
She's a full-on robot in this. Just to for someone who might be listening who wasn't familiar with Ex Machina at all. That's what it is. We're dealing with a fully artificially intelligent robot portrayed by Alicia Vikander with some darn good CGI. I got to say, because that wasn't a gigantic budget movie either, and it was pretty darn.
No, it was A24,
well
one of their earliest A24 releases. It kind of put them on the map. If I remember correctly. Yes, the CGI is excellent. The gist of the story is Oscar Isaac is sort of a Steve Jobs kind of guy who's super smart and whatever. He's created an AI, and he brings in one of his employees who's won a lottery or something to come in and do the Turing test.
Yes, yeah.
For which, if you don't know what the Turing test is to determine whether or not an AI can pass for human. Sort of the deal.
Which modern day evidence suggests the threshold of the average person declaring that this thing is convincingly human is shockingly low. So
not only shockingly low, there are commercials right now that keep coming across my feed for like ChatGPT basically being marketed to old people.
Right.
Who are like knitting and like, what should I use? What should I call you? I'm like, oh God, don't give it to old people. I mean, no offense. I'm not saying that old people shouldn't have access to technology and stuff like that. But, if you give ChatGPT to my parents, they will immediately fall into psychosis, like AI psychosis.
We saw what happened with Facebook.
It will be a direct line.
Yep.
And I'm not saying my parents are stupid or anything like that, or that they're prone. It's just the time of their lives. Like my kids are right now, like I said, in sort of this age where they're surly and pushing against me, and trying to be adults while also needing help and that sort of thing. And they're, it's just an awkward age. When you get to the age where my parents don't do anything anymore.
Sure,
they have their schedule. And they do their stuff. And like, we were supposed to go out to dinner for my dad's 80th birthday this last weekend, which I forgot to mention because it was a non-thing. We're supposed to all go out to dinner for it. And at the last minute, they canceled because, usually we just have this for dinner on Sunday. We're just going to do that instead. Right. So you guys can come over and bring your own food. I'm like, I went from I'm going to go out to dinner with you guys and you guys are going to pay for it to I have to bring my own food? Like, what? How is this a party? Anyways, it was what it was. It was fine. But that's just I think it's extremely if there was any chance I was going to use ChatGPT, that commercial would have absolutely, like, that is the most sketchy advertisement. It's absolutely awful. I think that it's like marketing alcohol to alcoholics.
Is the word.
You know what I mean? Predatory is the word I'm looking for. It's like having beer commercials in the middle of your AA meeting. It's just not right. I'm not saying that you can't do it.
It's
I'm
why
just
having
saying
every sporting event on TV just inundated with gambling ads just feels so good.
It feels so good. Anyway, so it hits, Ex Machina hits differently now because clearly this is what we all thought AI was going to look like. It was going to, it was going to look like, not necessarily like a person, but it was going, you would interact with it and wonder whether or not it would feel human to interact with this thing.
I mean, dude, if we had this level of AI, people would be paying all the money.
Absolutely. So really good movie. If you haven't seen it, you should absolutely see it. Of course, the second movie I saw was a little bit more timely. It's yesterday was the last day before school started for my son, and my wife was like, why don't you, he wants to go to the movies. Why don't you guys go to the movies together? So we tried to go on Sunday, but we couldn't find good seats. But yesterday afternoon, I took off early from work, and we went to see Spider-Man Brand New Day. Here in town, we have an IMAX with laser screen, which is what I ended up looking at. I looked it up to see what it was because I didn't know what it was. My son was like, I want to go. He didn't necessarily say IMAX, but he didn't want to go to one of the other theaters. He wanted to go to this theater. Yeah, he just wanted to go to the theater that was close by. I guess he didn't want to spend too much time in the car with me. But so we went to the IMAX screen because that's what I chose, and I'm paying for it. And got reasonable seats. I think one aisle too close. I think I needed to be one aisle further back. It was a little dizzying during some of the
IMAX with laser, that should be the 1.89 to 1 aspect ratio or 1.9 to 1 aspect ratio, which is fine because sequences of Spider-Man Brand New Day were shot in with IMAX cameras, but they were shot on the digital IMAX cameras with the 1.9 to 1 aspect ratio. So there is no 1.43 to 1 content in Spider-Man Brand New Day. So
I never noticed any black bars at any point during the screen was so freaking huge that there was I wasn't looking to the bottom or the top to see if there was a black bar someplace. I'm not going to spoil anything with this. It'll be a completely spoiler free. I went in spoiler free. I didn't know anything about this movie.
Good for you. Had you seen all the way up through all the prior ones? So I
have, but I hadn't remembered them all. So I knew the last one I really remembered was the Mysterio one. Okay. And I the other one, the one with Doctor Strange, I remembered it existed, but I couldn't remember if it was part of a Doctor Strange movie or part of his movie or whatever. So we actually, before we went to go see the movie, we read like the synopsis of that movie, and I was like, oh yeah, I kind of remember. Yeah. But they show some flashbacks at the beginning and kind of like it's
catch
fine.
You up, remind you
up. There's lots of cameos in here from other Marvel characters, which is fun. You don't have to. You literally don't have to know who any of them are or what their deal is. It is immediately revealed to you. Okay. And my son did not know who some of them were, and one of them was a pretty main character in there, and he was like, "Who is that?" I was like, he goes, well, he got what their deal was immediately. Cool. The movie is, it might be one of my absolute favorite Spider-Man movies.
Hooray!
To be honest with you, I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. There's enough at the end of it. I was like, they didn't wrap up every string that they, you know what I mean? Every thread was not neatly tied in a bow by the end of it. So you're like, I could see how this is going to be wrapped. They could do something with this later if they choose. So they could do something with this other thing later if they choose. So I'm very curious to see where they go with it. But the thing I walked out of this movie thinking more than anything, there was two things. First, this is the first movie where I really felt like you got and maybe it was because I was sitting a little too close to the IMAX screen, but you got the sense of what it felt like to be swinging through Manhattan.
It is a new director taking over here. Yeah. So not the same director as the prior 3 Spider-Man movies within the MCU. So yeah, got a new director, their own flair, their own style.
And I was like, man, this that's terrifying. You really get the sense like there's one scene that's clearly meant to do this to you.
Gotcha.
That you're supposed to do this. Now, being on the IMAX screen and being a little bit too close, and it was dizzying to experience. So, you know, and it doesn't go on for a long time, but I was like, wow, this is a lot. It was very sensory overload. But the story itself and the characters and their relationships, like everything was just so well done. And wonder why. Why can they not do this with the other movies? Like, why are the other movies, like, what makes it so that these Tom Holland movies, and I'm going to blame him, but Zendaya's in there, and the kid who plays the person, I'm probably an adult, way past an adult at this point, who plays Ned, is his best friend or whatever. Why all these people seem to have such great chemistry and such interesting interactions, and even the secondary characters that are there all seem to be so well thought out, and their dialogue is so well done and everything else. I mean, it was a 2.5 hour movie. At no point was I like, well, is this thing going to end at some point?
Yep.
I was loving every second of it. And even though some of the characters were treated, their powers weren't exactly what I expected them to be, or what I knew they are, some of the things from the comics weren't comic accurate, that sort of thing. I'm very interested. You know, I was like, I don't care. I like this person.
This is its own thing. Yes. They're allowed to make some changes. The comic books throughout the ages have definitely made changes to characters along the way.
So this was a ton of fun. I highly recommend. So I saw it in IMAX with laser. It's supposed to have higher contrast, better black levels, and more colors or something. I don't know. I will tell you, I spent the whole time going, black levels suck in this movie.
It ain't no OLED.
I was like, look at that big black blob that's supposed to be a shirt. There's a specific character who in this movie who wears a lot of black, and boy, were they just a floating head most of the time. It's just like, oh man, this is gonna look so much better at home.
I mean, it is still DLP. That's the underlying technology is DLP that's going on there, and I don't think the IMAX DLP projectors are using the 6-chip design that they use in the Dolby cinemas. I think these are still the 3-chip design in there, because they're going for light output more than they are maximum contrast, because the sheer size of the screen demands the light.
And they the seats were shaking. I don't know if they had bass shakers in there, but there was plenty of bass in there. It felt very tinny. Like it first opened up, and I was like, "Oh,
little
that's
piercing.
a little bright."
That's typical for IMAX for sure.
Yeah. In the end, it was fine, but I was like, "This would sound better at home." But I did appreciate the bass. There was tons of good moments for bass in there, so I imagine this is going to be a pretty good showcase movie. And there was a particular fight scene with a bunch of people dressed in red. That's all I'll say. That I was like, that was amazing. At the end of it, I was like, we finally got this was a good representation of what I expected. If you've seen the comic books, if you've read the comic books, and you've seen images from the comic books, and it all looks like absolutely crazy, like there's no way that could work, and that sort of thing, but it's great because it's a comic book panel, it looks cool. They made it work in the movie, and I was like loving every second of it. I'm like, I would go back and rewatch that fight scene over and over and over again. So it was very, very, it was very well done. Go watch it. Brand new day.
I mean, you would hope from the massively successful box office that this movie is having that some lessons would be taken from that. But
one would think, but they didn't take any lessons from all the other movies that they made that were good. Like, hey, how did Captain? And this is why I look back. I'm like, how did Captain America have 3 great movies, or at least 2 great movies, and then that other one that was basically an Avengers movie? But how did Captain America have 3 great movies, and then everybody else had 1 good one and everything else sucked? You're just like, I mean, no force on earth will get me to watch Iron Man 3 again. Just won't happen.
Okay.
Didn't love Iron Man 2 either, to be honest with you. But I'll watch Iron Man 1 over and over again. Thor, the first one, loved it. Second one, Third one, great. Fourth one, why can't, what is it about certain actors or characters or whatever that is it just luck? Is it there's something about the character that's easy to connect with?
It does feel as though Tom Holland and Zendaya they're probably going to be okay. Those two they're probably
if
not
they
gonna
ever let
too
Tom
much.
Holland get out of high school, early college, maybe is he going to be able to be an adult?
He's doing all right for now.
I'm like, is he getting old? Is the reason why he's always beat up in this movie? Because I mean, he's in fight scenes throughout the entire movie. Is the reason he's always beat up because they're trying to like cover up the fact that he's got wrinkles someplace on his face, or what? Because Timothée Chalamet looks like a child, and he's the God Emperor Dune, and that's no problem. But Tom Holland's like, I'm still in high school, guys. He's not in this movie. He's college.
But regardless, Zendaya is there. She's going to be everywhere. And why not? She's very good in everything she's in.
She is very good. And I was thinking about that today. First of all, she looks very young, which in some ways is problematic, but in other ways it's fine. It's what it is. It's just the way she looks. But she feels like the characters that she plays, at least in Spider-Man, she just feels approachable. And she feels like you're interested in her immediately. The way she's on the screen, you're like, I care. So I've talked about characters actors who, when they walk on stage, immediately steal the spotlight. They have this kind of gravitas, this ability to do that, and I feel like that's what she's got. But it's on the screen, and I care about her character immediately. Tom Holland too, I think, has that. He has the ability to, when he's on the screen, I'm just like, I'm rooting for you, dude.
That's right. He definitely has I'm instantly rooting. You see Tom Holland and he struggles a little bit, and you're like, aw. Oh. Help that guy out.
Somebody help that guy out. Somebody give that guy a hand.
That's right.
So there is I am a big believer in, if you're playing the superhero, you should be wearing the mask. That's like the whole, that's the thing. It bugs me when, it feels to me like the actor's like, listen, I'm in this movie. I want them to see my face. I want the people to remember it's me. So I'm going to take the mask off.
Or more likely,
all the fight scenes.
Their agent really, really agent and their manager really, really wants their client's face to be seen. Yes.
So Tom Holland in these movies is pretty good about keeping his mask on the entire time. But there is a part of this movie where he does take his mask off and does a fight scene. And I was like, I can't believe I'm loving this so much. Like, this is like the perfect time to take the mask off. This is when we want to see it. This is it. This is the moment when you should. Because every other time you're like, okay, well, whoever he's fighting is going to die. You know what I mean? Or whoever they are fighting, if it's a female character, they took the mask off. That means the other person can't live. Because then their secret will be out, right? But in this movie, at that time, you're like, it's nebulous as to whether or not because first of all, Spider-Man's kill people, number one. Number two, you're like, does he need to? I don't think he needs to. That was one of the things that bugged me about the whole Green Goblin in the very first one. That was the one thing that really bothered me, was like, the mask came off, he realized it was Peter, and I was like, well, now the Green Goblin's dead. That was it. Kind of, you already knew what was going to happen, and that, I don't like that. That's why I don't like prequels all that much, because there's no stakes. The stakes are gone, and you take the stakes away when you take the mask off, because you know what the outcome is already. You don't have to worry about that person is definitely going to die, or something's going to happen to rectify the situation. So you know that. So there's no whatever. But he took the mask off at this point, and I was like, oh, yes, you can take the mask off now and fight these people or this other person, and it's just as good as you wearing the mask. And now we get to see your face as the character's face as they're doing the fight, which is what we never get to see in Spider-Man. And I was like, man, I like this movie.
All right.
I really like
You're
this
not
movie.
the only one, very clearly. It's doing gangbusters, so hooray.
Yeah. All right. This is AVRant, the podcast that answers your home theater and AV questions. To get your question answered, all you have to do is ask. You ask by emailing us at question@avrant.com. You come to the website. You can find our shows, our show notes, links to any products or articles that we reference, as well as a link to a Flickr album so you can follow along the pictures that people send us when they send us their questions. They often send them unsolicited because they know that we want them, or we'll say, hey, how about a picture, my man?
Yes,
or
please.
My lady. We don't. Your description is not good enough. You can find us at facebook.com/AVRant podcast, youtube.com/AVRant, where the pictures will be embedded in the video, at least for now.
That's
Who
right.
knows? Who knows
with the YouTubes?
Contact us directly, rob@avrant.com. His socials is at First Reflect. I'm Tom at avrant.com. I don't do socials. I want to thank our listeners of the week. To become a listener of the week, to support the podcast in some way. If you want to support us financially, you can go to avrant.com, click on the Buy Us a Cup of Coffee link, and send us a PayPal donation. Those donations have not happened in the last couple of weeks, and that's not the economy's in the crapper, so there's that.
What?
But also, but now you know where to get cheap toilet paper because of Rob.
I do.
Rob's shopping tips.
Not just cheap. Good. The best I've ever used. Crazy.
Now we'll all know Rob's tolerance for toilet paper quality if we go out and get it. Fluffy, apparently. It's the brand. Unexpected. I forgot, lost my train. We already did the Rob stuff. Oh, yeah. Support us financially going to avrant.com. Click on the Buy Us a Cup of Coffee link. That'll take you to a PayPal donation site where you can send us a PayPal donation if you choose. Like I said, those donations have been down lately, which is fine. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world. Plus, school's about to start. People are spending money on a bunch of other stuff. If you want to support us monthly and not have to think about it, patreon.com/AVRant podcast. Every month they'll take some money from you and give most of it to us. We have 119 patrons over at patreon.com right now. So thank you very much to each and every one of you.
That is right. Once again, that is patreon.com/AVRant podcast. If you'd like to sign up to make an automatic monthly donation, so a big thank you to our 119 patrons holding strong over there right now.
All right. We got some notes of gratitude for keeping the podcast going from John, Stefan, Dale, Michael, and Gurinder. Gurinder is glad we mentioned his comment last week about buying and hiding a new Apple TV 4K in his setup, since this Amazon Fire TV stick seems to keep disappearing. Our comment about the new higher price for the Apple TV 4K reminded him that Staples, which is where he bought this, was supposed to price match the Apple TV 4K for him in the form of a credit, and he forgot to check if they'd actually done that, so our podcast helped to remind him. So thanks. You're welcome. Yes, thanks.
Yeah, that's right. Very useful. Once again, we had, John, Stefan, Dale, Michael, and Gurinder. Thank you very much for those notes of gratitude and encouragement. We really appreciate them. And a big, big thank you to everybody who continues to listen and send in your questions.
Sorry. I am titling the podcast.
Okay.
All right. In the news, Hisense is the first TV brand to start rolling out Dolby Vision 2 support. Do I know what Dolby Vision 2 is? I thought it wasn't much of anything. Is it a thing?
It isn't really much that I can surmise, but there it is. Dolby Vision 2. It's coming to Hisense first.
A new firmware update is added in Dolby Vision 2 to Hisense's 2026 UX, U7, UR8 RGB, and UR9 RGB TV models. And it's not just Dolby Vision 2, it's Dolby Vision 2 Max.
Yes. Isn't it great that there's two versions of Dolby Vision 2?
Why would you have two versions? It's already 2.
I know.
But is 3 going to have 3 versions?
Who knows?
All right. Canal Plus? What the heck is Canal Plus?
Canal streaming service. Studio Canal. Yeah.
Canal Plus and Peacock have said they will start offering Dolby Vision 2 encoded content at some point. And if those streaming services make use of the new Authentic Motion option, these Hisense TV models will be able to take advantage of it with their Dolby Vision 2 support. LightSense 2 is also on boards if you optionally want the overall brightness of your TV to adjust up and down depending on the lighting in your room, which you definitely don't.
And already is a feature that existed as part of Dolby Vision IQ, but they gave it a new name, and it's part of Dolby Vision 2. Supposed to be even better.
But the main difference that customers might notice is the new bidirectional tone mapping, which does not require specific metadata. They can be applied by a Dolby Vision 2 Max display on any existing Dolby Vision content. Why do you need this when you've already got Dolby Vision? I don't understand.
Oh,
so the brights get brighter, even beyond what the creators of the content encoded and intended. So
Yes.
hooray!
Yes, you see, when I buy a TV that can now blast out 10,000 nits, but I'm watching something and they encoded it in Dolby Vision and the brightest pixel in that movie is only 1,000 nits, why did I pay all the money for a 10,000 nit TV? Make it be 10,000 nits. That's what this can do now. Only Dolby Vision 2 Max. Regular Dolby Vision 2 can't do that. You gotta have the Max version to do the bi-directional tone mapping. It's critical.
It's a feature. Remember that. It's a feature.
It's visual upmixing. You know, I got all these speakers, but the soundtrack is only 5.1. I want sound coming out of all the speakers. I got these pixels. They can go up to 10,000 nits, but the content only goes up to 1,000. I want it to go to 10. Make it happen.
If you've ever wondered what a TV would look like if Yamaha made it, this is it. For those of you who don't get that reference, let me explain the joke. Yamaha loves their DSPs and has a million of them and likes to change their content and allow you to change your content to sound like the inside of a bathroom at the New York subway station or whatever it is that they've got. And this is what this sounds like to me, but in visual form. So, yeah. Yep. No, thank you.
I know, right?
Just no thank you. Yeah. I don't need any of that so far. What is authentic motion? What is that?
That is the creators can... I mean, they're sort of dubbing it motion smoothing, but it's the whole thing of we've got the display that can, at a minimum, do 120 frames per second. Some of them can do, 144 or 165. But at a minimum, they can do 120 frames per second. So we can encode in the metadata, hey, during this scene or this transition, increase the frame rate, bring the frame rate down. You can ramp the frame rate up and down encoded within the metadata. So it's an actual on the content creator side choice of being able to ramp the frame rate up and down.
So we've all noticed. I'm going to go on a tangent here. Okay. We've all noticed that Christopher Nolan's stupid "I shot everything in IMAX and IMAX is the best." Okay. Is now being marketed by IMAX and other movies because they're like, well, I mean, everybody's so excited about IMAX. Let's talk about how
IMAX for doing that. Makes sense for IMAX to do that.
From IMAX's standpoint, this is great. They're like, we give Christopher Nolan a bunch of cameras. Mm-hmm. He talks about how great they are, and now everybody conflates IMAX with quality. So now it's like every movie's got to come out like, oh, and we're being shown in IMAX.
That's right.
I'm like, it's not. I mean, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything.
Nolan. Dune 3 is doing the same thing, and it's going to be successful at doing it too.
It's going to be successful because Dune 3 is going to be hopefully a great movie.
But people do want to see the IMAX 70mm film, and they do want the IMAX GT for Dune 3. Why wouldn't you? Also shot on those gigantic IMAX cameras.
It's just, it's like putting two things together and saying because it's in IMAX, it is going to be a great movie is only going to fail. It's just one bad movie away from it. Sure. Everybody going, wait a second, I thought all IMAX movies were great.
But it's worked for the Odyssey, and it's going to work for Dune 3, so don't stop yet.
Denon started to refresh their AV receiver lineup a month or two ago, and now, surprise, surprise, it's Marantz's turn. Rather than all new model numbers, Marantz is continuing on with their Cinema Series, with lower numerical model numbers being the higher in features and price. Wow.
Yeah.
You guys suck. I mean, we're going to go down, and pretty soon we're going to be at number 1, and then what are we going to do? But now it's the Cinema Series 2, and they've got 3 new models so far. The Cinema 50 Series 2 is priced at $3,000, and it's essentially the same as the $1,850 Denon X3900H for $3,000. You get 9 channels of amplification built in, but they can process up to 11 speaker channels. Plus, it's 4 subwoofer pre-outs. It gets rated at 110 watts per channel, 2 channels driven, which obviously justifies the price over the measly 105 watts per channel of the Denon.
Yes.
That's not
so different internally. So different.
The new HDMI 2.1 board is here with its official support for 1440p resolutions and AMD FreeSync, and the full suite of DRAC Live all the way up to DRAC Live Art if you want is still available as an optional paid add-on. Odyssey Multi-QXC32 is included out of the box. Odyssey, can you put out something new, please?
Nope.
I would like you to do something new, because XT32 has been around for what, like a decade? It feels like, if not longer.
They've got their paid upgrade to Multi-QX. That was the newest.
That doesn't do anything for anybody. I hate to break it to you.
It's all Dirac all the time now, Tom.
There's a new Web Control 2.0 interface and on-screen channel monitoring, so you can see each speaker playing in real time if you want to, or you can just sit in the room and listen. And there they are. Mm-hmm. HEOS has been updated, and the new 32-bit DACs, and the 32-bit DACs are new apparently. I mean, because they're always new.
They're claiming the best yet total harmonic distortion plus noise figures. They're new and improved.
A couple of new features do stand out, though. Cinema Series 2 gains low-latency Bluetooth LE support, so that could be very helpful in some situations. And the Cinema 50 Series 2 gets the new Dolby Atmos channel expander processing. This allows you to apply Dolby Surround upmixing to actual Dolby Atmos soundtracks. So top-middle speakers can get some action, even if the Dolby Atmos mix only locks overhead sounds objects to the top front and top rear positions for people who refuse to change. Like,
there's no front wide support though, so where this could be the most useful, there's no front wide support. So it's pretty much just the top middles is about the only thing where that might get applied. But hey, we just talked about I got all these speaker channels, and yet the signal didn't put anything in them. I want sound to come out of every speaker I have.
Nobody has wides, Rob. They don't have to expand it to a speaker that nobody has.
Oh, well. Some of us do. But anyway, Dolby Atmos channel expander. It's here to make all your speakers make sound.
All right. The Cinema 60 series. Remember, this is 50 was the more expensive one.
It's the more expensive higher end. We're working our way down as the numbers go up. Yes.
How could this possibly confuse anybody?
I know, right?
Cinema 60 Series 2 is priced at $2,000 and is basically the equivalent to the 1350 Denon X2900H. And just like the Denon, this marks the first time that Dirac Live Room Correction is available this far down the lineup. It's an optional paid add-on, and it stops at room correction. No bass control or art options. Multi-Q XT is included out of the box. The 60 Series 2 does have a full set of pre-outs, though, which are absent in the Denon, and it tops out at 7 speakers, though. And just the Cinema 50 Series 2, and just the Cinema 50 Series 2
should be, sorry.
Just like the Cinema. I knew there was a word missing there.
It was.
Versus the 3900H, the Marantz is rated at a whopping 5 watts per channel extra. Two channels driven, so it gets a nice even 100 watts per channel instead of 95 watts per channel of the 2900H.
That's right.
Lastly, there's the 70S Series 2. And yes, the S stands for Slimline, which I actually appreciate because I think the Slimline receivers do have a place in this market.
Yes.
Priced at $1,500. It's the same feature set as a $950 Denon S980H, but this time the rated power per channel is lower in the Marantz, which is 50 watts versus 90 watts in the Denon. But you get much more compact slimline form factor, which I think is valuable. Also, despite the more compact chassis, the Cinema 70S Series 2 also gets a full 7.2 set of pre-outs. It can optionally be upgraded to Dirac Live Room Correction with paid add-on. Comes with regular multi-Q out of the box. The front panel looks like it hasn't changed from the first Cinema series, and the 3 new models are all shipping now. So there you go.
Yes. So, I mean, much like the Denon upgrades, there's barely any feature changes, barely any spec changes. I'm very happy to recommend getting the
last year's
Cinema series if you want to stick with the Marantz looks for some reason. Get those. The Series 2 doesn't have a ton that's compelling here, but hey, that Dolby Atmos channel expander, the low latency Bluetooth, like if that was the thing you needed, that might be the most compelling new feature that's been added here. I'm not as happy about just having to say Series 2 after everything to delineate which generation we're talking about. I kind of would have preferred that they call them a Cinema 55, 65, 75S or something like that, so that we don't have to type and say Series 2 after everything. But anyway, that's what they went with. So those are the new Marantz models. I'm certain that the top of the lineup and the bottom of the lineup will be getting updated at some point in the not too distant future for both Denon and Marantz.
So back at CES, Klipsch announced that a new Reference Premier 3 series of speakers was on the way, and now we have the model numbers, prices, and release date. So let's dig in. So I might not like saying the new model numbers, but at least there's a logic to them. So there are the 3 tower models. The most expensive is the Klipsch Reference Premier 3 series model with an upward-firing Atmos module built in. So here it is.
Yes.
The RP, Reference Premier, 8263 FA, sports 2 8-inch ceramic metallic woofers. I'm sorry, Cerametallic woofers. Cerametallic. Ceramic, metallic, whatever. Obviously, ceramics and metallics are somehow bonded together in an unholy alliance that's probably going to bring around the end of the world.
I mean, Klipsch has been using those for a long time. That's their copper-looking woofers. Yeah. That is a trademark of their looks.
Plus the 1-inch titanium tweeter in the new Reference Premier 3 Tractrix. Tractrix?
That's
whatever.
Not a typo. It is Tractrix.
I know it is. Horn that is flared more widely than the previous series and expands edge to edge on the front baffle. On its top, there's a built-in Atmos module with a 6.5-inch woofer and a horn-loaded tweeter. So the the RP 8263 FA, that's Reference Premier, 8-inch woofers, 2 of them, because that's the 2.
Yep.
And a 6-inch woofer on the top, Series 3, floor standing with Atmos, is what all those things stand for.
There is a logic to those jumble of letters and numbers. It's not completely random.
It's just hard to say. The price is $2,600 per pair, which is not too bad, really, considering prices these days. Getting away from the built-in Atmos modules, the RP 8203F is the flagship 2-channel choice, 2 8-inch woofers, new horn-loaded tweeter, floor standing, no Atmos. They go for $1,600 a pair, which again, that's not bad. That's not bad. That's not bad. And then there's the more compact tower, the RP 6203F.
Yes.
These are $1,400 a pair. So,
can you guess? It's a 6.2.
It's two 6-inch woofers.
Yes. No Atmos.
No Atmos.
Series 3.
And Series 3, and then floor standing. Yes.
That's right.
Onto the bookshelf for the monitors, speakers models, the RP6103M. M is for a monitor. There's no Atmos, so that's a 1 6-inch woofer and a Series 3. And no tweeter, apparently. They don't bother putting it in here. So the RP6103M and the RP510M, 103M you guessed it, a single 6.5 or 5.25-inch woofer in the bookshelf or stand mount form factor. They're priced at $700 per pair and $550 per pair, respectively. For center speaker, there's no way. I mean, it would be hard for me to look at those 2 prices and not go, I'm going to spend another extra $150 for the 6-inch woofer, but sure. I would have to look at the performance to know for sure.
And the physical size. Sometimes you just want the smaller physical size, and it fits much better.
That's true. For the center speaker, there's the RP5403 and the RP5203C. Both of those end with C's.
They do. Okay. For center, you'll never guess.
Yes. The 5403C is basically a slim tower turned on its side with 4 5.25-inch woofers. The cabinet depth is very deep. The 5203C is the more traditional looking and a reasonably sized woofer woofer design with 2 5.25-inch woofers. Prices are $750 and $450 each, respectively. So if you want 4 woofers or 2 woofers. Klipsch also hasn't given up on dipole surround speakers because people like those, and that's okay. You can like those. Mm-hmm. The RP5203. I can't say 523 because it's going to. I gotta say the 0, which is hard to say. The 5203S uses 2 5.25-inch woofers and 2 horn-loaded tweeters with a wall-mountable trapezoidal cabinet that aims the sides of the dipole speaker off in different directions. It's $850 a pair, and then there's the wedge-shaped RP5103SA. Is the height speaker / Atmos module. You get to pick whether it's wall mounted with its angle facing face aimed at the seats, or upward firing and acting as an Atmos module with a single 5.25-inch woofer and horn-loaded tweeter. Price is $650 per pair. These are meant to be wall-mounted or put on top of another speaker. I guess you can choose
one or the other. They're the wedge-shaped. They can be an upward-firing Atmos module, or they can be a wall-mounted with the angled face, like you see in a theater.
All of these new Premiere 3 series speakers will start shipping in October. There's also a reference Premiere 3 sub, and there are new ones. They're all sealed. The RP 1600, which I can say because there's no more numbers after that. 1600 CSW is the compact sealed subwoofer.
Yes.
It's basically an 18.5-inch cube with an 800-watt RMS or 1,600-watt P Class D amp and in-room extension down to 14 hertz. It's priced at $1,500 each.
16-inch diameter woofer.
That's not bad.
Not the worst I've seen.
I mean,
definitely
if it actually plays that low. The RP 1400 CSW and the RP 1200 CSW, exactly what you expect. 14-inch and the 12-inch versions, basically 16.5 and 15-inch cubes respectively with 500 and 400 watts Class D amps. They all claim in-room extension below 20 hertz, and they go for 11 or 850 respectively. And the new subs start shipping in November. Boy, these are not bad.
I know, right?
I need somebody to measure them because sometimes in-room extension means I shoved it in the closet and I don't expect Klipsch to really do that.
Yeah, that hasn't been what they've done in the past. Yeah. And I mean, they're definitely relying on, they are sealed, so they have the more shallow roll off. So, they begin to roll off higher in frequency, but they do so at a more gradual 12 decibels per octave instead of a steep 24 decibels per octave. But I mean, Klipsch has had capable subs all along. They've in the situations where people are like, the only sub I'm going to buy has to be from a big box store. I'm like, well, then get a Klipsch, because out of the available choices, that's going to be the best one, and they're very reasonable subs. But I mean, just overall, this entire Klipsch Reference Premiere 3 series, I'm like, these prices with these looks and the sort of output capabilities that they have, I'm like, I'm not angry at any of this. I think this is all pretty reasonable from Klipsch.
Yeah, well, the prices seem pretty good.
Yeah.
The performance seems decent. Like I said, I'd like to see some measurements to know for
sure.
But
I mean, they're literally not available to buy yet. So, but I mean, given the progression that happened from the original Reference Premiere series to the Reference Premiere 2, I'm like, I don't have a big reason to doubt that the Reference Premiere 3 is somehow going to all of a sudden be way, way worse. I mean, who knows? Maybe they are, but it doesn't seem like it. Going with seeing the progression they've done in the horn design, I'm like, okay, so they're getting ever closer to slightly wider dispersion as they go along in these speakers, because the original Reference Premiere was a very narrow, you could see it in the design of the horn. It was like, that is a deep-throated, narrow horn, and the Reference Premiere 2 got a little wider and a little bit softer and a little more rounded, and now these ones are edge-to-edge and the widest ones yet. So I'm like, okay, it's pretty clear what's going on with this design here, just from the looks of it. So yeah, I've got pretty high hopes for these.
Yeah, I do too. I like that. Comments from our listeners. Nathan heard our recommendations to Nick regarding trying to soundproof the bedrooms in his house on the cheap. We mentioned how if he was going to go ahead and pull down the drywall on the party walls rather than putting up a layer of mass-loaded vinyl and then a layer of 5-8-inch drywall, we just put up 2 layers of drywall with green glue and maybe consider decoupling the drywall from the studs. Rob mentioned how it might be better in this case to opt for resilient channels rather than sound clips and hat channels, since sound clips and hat channels take up a considerable amount of depth and therefore reduce the square footage of your room by a noticeable amount. We mentioned ISOStore, so Nathan is pretty sure we're familiar with their HushFrame Raft product. That is a terrible name.
I mean, Raft for Rafter originally, but
I understand.
I just call them the HushFrame. Yes.
Yeah, it's a terrible name. It sounds like it's for boats. It's dumb. Its design allows for very effective drywall decoupling, but with as little as a 1/4-inch gap between the studs and the back of the drywall. This minimal gap is achieved by actually recessing the hush frames when you attach them to the studs. And then, rather than running the furring strips perpendicular and in front of the studs, which is the typical installation method. You can run the furring strips parallel to the studs, making sure none of the furring strips ever make contact with anything other than the hush frames. This isn't some sort of hack. It's fully supported and documented method of installation. It just isn't the standard method because you often run into issues in terms of having adequate space for pipes, wires, and ducts when recessing all of the hush frames and furring strips. So this recessed installation is typically reserved for new construction where you can plan ahead for such things from the very beginning. But a party wall can often allow for this recessed installation technique, so it's just something to keep in mind when you want very effective drywall decoupling without the loss of square footage. Because in this case, what he's talking about, and I totally agree with this, so inside your wall there's what they sometimes call bays, right? Mm-hmm. Where it's a space between the two studs.
Yes.
Right. And in this case, if you were to install this hush frame thing, it would go into that bay. And if you're going to do an entire room, inevitably one of those walls, one of those bays has got something in it that's taking up a lot of the space.
Yes.
And would make installation hard. But the party wall often only has like some Romex running down it for a light switch or something like that.
Yeah.
Very little else would be going on in a party wall. So if we're only doing that one wall, chances are that wall, those bays are empty. So yeah, this is a great recommendation. I like this.
The only issue is it's hard to say that this is doing it on the cheap because every single hush raft costs $5.25. And you need one of them every 16 inches, up and down. I mean, you can go to every 24 inches if your studs are done that way. But otherwise, it's like that price adds up pretty darn quick. You can go with just basic furring strips, but you want very straight furring strips without any warps or twists or anything like that, because all of your drywall is being attached to the furring strips, not to the studs anymore. So you're probably going with engineered lumber for the furring strips just to make sure they're actually going to be straight and not any bends or twists or warping whatsoever. So all of that does increase the price without question. I still end up coming back when your goal is to do it on the cheap. As long as you're careful with the installation, resilient channels are still cheaper, and they don't take up a ton of, reduced square footage. So you just have to be careful with resilient channel installation. There's nothing wrong with them. It's just that they're very easy to short circuit, and that's what usually goes wrong. When people are installing them quickly, they either miss putting the drywall screw into the resilient channel, or they go through the resilient channel and it touches something else, and now you've short circuited the whole thing, and you've wasted your time and your money. So you have to be careful in the installation, but overall, they are still cheaper.
Okay. Let's get some questions in here. John has an Ex Machina. I don't know. Jimmy?
I mean, it should be Jimmy, but the Ex Jimmy, so you know how it's spelled.
Yeah.
Or Gimme. Since everyone online hates a soft G sound. It's got to be a hard G if it's spelled with a G these days. So there you go.
So John has an Ex Machina Titan Noir Max projector with an external video processor, the Lumagen Radiance Pro 4242. He's using the Lumagen as an HDMI switch to change between source devices, and those sources are a Kaleidoscope player, a Zapedi player, and an Apple TV 4K. Seems like it's got too many players in this situation.
I mean, he's got one so he can buy from Kaleidoscope. He's got a Zapedi so he can play his own backups, and then he's got an Apple TV 4K so he can stream.
So Lumagen has two HDMI outputs, with one of them sending video only to the projector and the other sending audio only to his receiver. If he has his Kaleidoscope and his Zapedi both plugged in the Lumagen, but not the Apple TV 4K, everything works perfectly fine. But as soon as he plugs in his Apple TV 4K into his Lumagen, problems start to happen. Boy, do I already know what this is. Almost certainly,
not quite.
without reading anymore. I think I know what this is. I feel like I know what this is. But let's go on.
Yes.
Usually the Apple TV 4K itself seems to be okay, but if he switches over to watch either the Kaleidoscope or the Zapedi,
Zapedi? Yep, it's Zapedi.
Whatever. Those start having audio and video dropouts every 5 seconds or so. It's a very brief black screens or momentary loss of audio, but it's happening over and over in rapid succession. It doesn't stop, so it's unwatchable. If he simply unplugs the Apple TV 4K from the Lumagen while this is happening, nothing changes. The dropouts continue. But if he turns everything off and then back on again, but he keeps Apple TV 4K unplugged, now everything is back to working fine. Well, that's weird. obviously I can read the next sentence because the first thing I was going to say is this sounds like HDMI CC. But he's saying the first thing he did was double check that HDMI CC is turned off in every device, but that didn't fix the issue. He tried turning off the match content settings and changing the chroma output settings on the Apple TV 4K, but that didn't fix it. He tried swapping HDMI cables and also no dice. Since he uses Apple TV 4K as his primary source for streaming, he does want to have it plugged into Lumagen to take advantage of that external video processing. But with these constant audio and video dropouts happening onto his other sources, whenever the Apple TV 4K is plugged in, he's resorted to plugging the Apple TV 4K directly into his AV receiver and then connecting the HDMI output of his receiver to the second HDMI input of his Titan Noir Max projector. But if you can believe it, even with that separate HDMI signal path in place, when he went to use either his Kaleidoscape or his PD, the audio and video dropouts still happened. The only way to avoid the signal dropping out was to have the Apple TV 4K completely disconnected, even with it not plugged into his Lumagen at all. If it was plugged into his AV receiver and his AV receiver was only connected to the Lumagen via its separate audio only HDMI port, somehow the Apple TV 4K sitting in with the Apple TV sitting in standby, that was still enough to make these signal dropouts happen. That seems crazy. So how can this be, and how can he fix it? So he's saying it's not HDMI CC. The first thing I would check is, are you sure?
Yes, that is fair. That is fair.
Because sometimes it sneaks up, it sneaks back on.
Yep.
You know, you updated something, or there was the update pushed by the manufacturer, and it turns back on HDMI CC, and you're like, I'm sure I turned that off, and then it's back on. So that would be my first guess. So usually, what's happening whenever you see these kind of dropouts is, somewhere in the signal chain, something is trying to take over control of what is being sent out. And the device is doing some sort of switching back and forth, and it's trying to decide which device is the one it should be sending out. So it feels like it's the projector. It feels like it's got to be the projector. But I don't know why the projector would be doing this. What's the solution, Rob?
Well, I can't guarantee, but I had two suspects, and one of them, from what he said, was basically already eliminated. But the Apple TV 4K does have the feature of HDMI quick media switching.
Okay.
And that can be an issue, but the option for that is contained within that match content setting, where you can match the frame rate and match the dynamic range, and that's also where the quick media switching is. And he says he turned off everything under the match content settings header, and I believe him. I don't doubt that at all. And so I was like, okay, probably not the quick media switching. And therefore my top suspect that I thought of was a feature that many people don't remember the Apple TV 4K has, which is the Apple TV 4K can act as the receiving device for an HDMI eARC signal, right? So you can plug all of your sources into your TV, plug the eARC HDMI port of your TV into an Apple TV 4K, just like you would with a soundbar, say, like with a Sonos soundbar. That's how you would do it, right? All your sources plug into the TV, and then the audio gets sent via eARC to your soundbar. Well, the Apple TV 4K can stand in place of your soundbar because it can then output the audio that it received via eARC to a pair of HomePod speakers or to some AirPod earphones. So it can act as the receiving eARC device. And given everything he described, including like he plugged the Apple TV 4K into the AV receiver, but he would have done so to the monitor one output, which is the eARC port.
Right.
And then somehow it was still causing dropouts from the other two sources that like weren't even plugged in this way. I'm like, okay, wait, is this Apple TV 4K trying to be the audio output device? Because that is the first and only thing that really made sense in my mind. And it is its own separate setting, which is there's now an audio return setting, return channel setting in the Apple TV 4K's menu. Under the video and audio section, there's an audio return channel, and you have to turn that off. Not only that, you might toggle that setting, and this still could be happening. You need to change that setting, unplug the Apple TV 4K, probably cycle its power while its HDMI port is unplugged, let it turn back on, plug the HDMI port back in because you need to establish a new HDMI handshake. When he talked about, he was getting these dropouts, he unplugged his Apple TV 4K's HDMI port, and the dropouts kept happening, but then if he cycled the power on everything and left the Apple TV 4K unplugged, well, then it all went back to working fine. I'm like, okay, so there's an HDMI handshake that some device maybe it's the Lumagen, is holding on to that HDMI handshake until you fully cycle the power on everything. So it might not be enough to just toggle that audio return channel setting in the Apple TV 4K. You might have to do a full power cycle on everything again after you do that. But that is my first and kind of only real suspect. Now, one other potential suspect came to mind because of a question that's coming up later in the podcast from somebody else. There was another audio feature that was added to the Apple TV 4K. It wasn't in the original release. It got added via firmware update, which is the constant audio connection. This is a thing that the Apple TV 4K can do. It's putting out what is sometimes called comfort noise, which is an inaudible audio signal. Our human ears can't hear it, but it's constantly outputting an audio signal at all times so that you never get an audio dropout from the Apple TV 4K itself. Right? If it's the only device that you're using and you're sometimes like, wait a second, sometimes I switch between apps or, even just a video, like I'm watching YouTube and it changed, resolutions or whatever, and I get this audio dropout. Like, can I stop that? Can I stop the audio dropout from happening? Well, that's what this constant audio output setting is for. It's just always outputting some kind of audio signal so that the audio connection between it and your AV receiver never ever drops out. Well, that can also be an issue when you have other source devices plugged into things. So make sure that the constant audio setting is turned off. Make sure that the audio return channel setting is turned off in the Apple TV 4K. If it's not those things, I don't know what's going on. Those are the only things I can think of that could be causing this.
Possessed.
Yeah.
It's possessed. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
I was like, maybe I should check these things on my Apple TV 4K, but I don't have any other sources, so there you go.
And yours is plugged into your AV receiver, which is plugged into your TV, and you don't have a second display or an external video processor, so it shouldn't be a problem in your case.
Infinite Gary. Gary noticed Rob's comment last week about having tried quite a few different upward-firing Atmos modules back when everything to do with Atmos was still quite new. He followed Rob's recommendations back then when he decided to convert one of his spare bedrooms into a 7.2.4 Atmos home theater so he could evaluate the new format for himself without altering anything in his main home theater downstairs. Since he didn't want to install any in-ceiling speakers or hand any speakers...
Oh, sure, that's supposed to be hang.
Or hang.
I'm typoing all over the place today.
You are. Let me fish that for you. Hanging these speakers on the walls, he decided to try out these upward-firing modules that Dolby themselves were talking about, and based on Rob's initial impressions that he shared on the podcast, he went for Klipsch's first-generation reference Premiere modules, with them placed atop his front left and right and surround back speakers, just like Dolby was showing in their diagrams. Mm-hmm. While it was fun to play around with and experience in his own home, he was left wanting more. Let's just say his first Atmos setup didn't convince him to update his main home theater. But he's willing to continue tinkering with it, so when Rob, sometime later, declared on the podcast that PSB's upward-firing Imagine XA Atmos modules were the best and most convincing of all the modules he had heard, Gary decided to replace the Klipsch modules with the PSBs, and those have remained in his Atmos setup ever since. But they still weren't convincing enough to make him change his main home theater. Nevertheless, based on his own listening experience and the reading about how the Imagine XA modules were developed, he tends to agree with Rob's assessment that they came the closest to Dolby's own Atmos module design that they shared in the white papers, and he's liked them enough to keep them for a decade now. And that $500 a pair when they first came out, they were really quite a reasonable solution. But flash forward to today, and you can't even buy those modules anymore. Not only has PSB discontinued them, but they seem to have streamlined their entire product lineup. At present, they only offer a single center speaker model, and it's part of their least expensive Alpha series. And the top-end Image series is gone, replaced by the new flagship Synchrony, I said it right, towers and bookshelf speakers. Bookshelf pairs, and the current Imagine series is also limited just a large tower pair, a smaller tower pair, and one bookshelf pair. So it seems fairly clear what sort of customers PSB is targeting these days. The rest of PSB's current speaker lineup are lifestyle or compact self-powered models. So it seemed that the best, at least as far as Rob and Gary have heard, upward-firing modules weren't popular enough to stick around for longer than 10 years in the market. And it sure looks as though a well-established speaker brand in PSB has identified what types of speakers still sell, and it's not home theater-centric models. What do we make of that? My lord, that was a lot of reading to get to this question, which is basically...
it's information that is kind of news as well, so I incorporated it all together.
And if we can't point to PSB Imagine X8 Atmos modules anymore, which modules would we recommend to anybody these days? Well, I like these new Klipsch ones because then you can hang them on the walls.
I'm back to the Klipsches. Yes, that is the quick answer there. I'm back to the Klipsches. Yeah.
So what do we make of this? Trends is what I make of it. A lot of people did their shopping for home theater and home theater related stuff during COVID, which was now 6 years ago, coming up on 7. So we, speakers are not something that people buy a lot of. I mean, you don't buy them very often. Mm-hmm. It's just, if you're an enthusiast, you might upgrade your speakers every 10 years. Right. As new things come out and you finally decide that you can justify spending more money on speakers that are basically going to sound the same. So, to me, that's why you see manufacturers sort of pivoting from, we're just going to offer a few flagship models. And then, as those start selling, then the customers start saying things like, well, I want to flesh out the rest of my home theater. They start hearing that feedback, and then they'll offer a few more models to do that. But I mean, honestly, with a center channel, I'm sorry, it's not center channel. With floor standers and bookshelves, you can build a home theater. You don't really need to have a dedicated center speaker or dedicated Atmos speakers or dedicated any of these other things. Yep. You can build a 5.7 system pretty easily with just bookshelf speakers and tower speakers. Yeah, I mean, you can even put Atmos speakers up high. They're just on weird brackets or whatever.
And they still have in-ceiling speakers as part of the PSP lineup, so that could be the solution for overheads for sure.
So the fact that they're not making Atmos modules anymore, I think, is less aren't making as many different speakers. It's just they gotta follow the trends, and if there's people are only buying a certain price point of speaker and they're a super specific type of speaker, it doesn't make sense to keep offering all the rest of it. So
it's kind of the same thing as sometimes you'll see a new speaker brand or a new series from a speaker brand, and when the first generation comes out, they'll have 5 different finish options because people are always like, can't I get something and then other than plain black? And then by the second or third generation, black is the only option because that's the only one that sold. It was 98% of the speakers that sold were in black, and a fraction of a percent were in our funky blue color, and they all just sat around in a warehouse somewhere and never ended up being worth it. I mean, I totally get it from PSP's side. I'm a little bit surprised and full-on disappointed that the Imagine series is so shrunken and limited now. This is an updated series. It's not the exact same speakers as before, and they just did away with all the other models. There's a whole new Imagine series that PSP has, but it's just a large tower, a slimmer tower, and one bookshelf model, and that's it. That's the entire Imagine series now. And personally, I am full-on disappointed and a little bit surprised because these price-wise very much compete with the Reference Premier 3 series speakers from Klipsch that we just talked about, which is a very complete lineup. Every type of speaker shape that you could imagine is in that Klipsch Premier Reference 3 series. So I'm a little bit surprised that PSP doesn't have something to go head to head with that. But I mean, they still have that Alpha series. That is clearly the, hey, people who are buying lots of speakers from us want the least expensive speakers from us, apparently, or it's just that's the the series they have not updated yet. Maybe the future Alpha series, if there is one, is going to be a very limited series as well. That could be the case. But also, if we're looking at the other speakers that are available from them, it's so they've got these wall mountable speakers, very lifestyle, coded in terms of their looks, and pretty darn expensive. So it's well, clearly that's custom installers, right? Custom installers either want in-wall or at the most on-wall speakers. They don't want anything that stands on the floor, and they're going to charge a premium for those speakers, and they're going to make them look sleek. And then they have what has got to be Tom's favorite ones, out of this lineup, even though we're looking at the passive 50s, which look exactly like those Nostala speakers from Emotiva that you love the looks of so much, because apparently there's a group of buyers out out there who want the nostalgic heritage-looking speakers with the offset tweeters over to one side and the very, very boxy looks that remind them of speakers they had back in the, 60s or 70s. And so there you go. That's what they're doing. So yes, they are absolutely following trends. I can't blame them. It probably does make, look, they have the sales data, and I don't doubt that the sales data is telling them, who's buying speakers of this physical size and price? 2-channel people are buying these speakers, and everything else is in walls or maybe sleek looking on walls, and that's about it. And so I'm disappointed, yes, but it does make sense.
So in the settings for his LGB OLED, in addition to auto, there are options to set for the color gamut to native or Adobe RGB. All the setting guides always say to leave this set to auto, but he tried out native just to see if he would notice any difference, and it definitely resulted in stronger looking colors. So what does the setting actually do, and what would the Adobe RGB option differ? And I'm going to guess that the Adobe one is for computers, for like a computer thing.
Yes.
Yeah, and the reason we say auto is because it changes based on what the input is rather than just blanketly doing things. But maybe I'm wrong. So Rob, go ahead. I'm going to get some coffee.
Yeah, so different content is encoded using different color gamuts. So I mean, we became most familiar this when HD was new and Blu-rays and HD DVDs for the short amount of time that they were around were new, and we learned all about how we have this new Rec 709 color gamut, and we sort of retroactively created Rec 601 or NTSC or SMPTC color for standard dynamic range or standard definition rather, and so yeah, we learned about these color gamuts, and we have our CIE diagrams of all the colors that the human eye can see, and then we have these triangles, right? We pick a particular coordinate shade of red, particular coordinate shade of green, particular coordinate shade of blue, and then you can draw a triangle around that, and you got those individual red, green, and blue primaries, and then all of the colors that the display, or the signal in this case, can show are contained within the triangle that gets drawn between the red, green, and the blue. So auto on your LG TVs does a good job of detecting whatever the incoming signal is and matching those primary colors, and therefore the triangle of colors that encompasses all of the colors you'll see in that signal, of matching it to the signal as it comes in. So it'll detect when it's standard definition using Rec 601. It'll detect when it's HD using Rec 709. It'll detect when it's 4K using Rec 2020. And it'll detect if it's a Rec 2020 container, but all of the colors inside of that container are actually the DCI P3 color gamut. It'll detect all of those things using auto, and it will set the primary red, green, and blue colors, and therefore all the colors within the triangle that they form, to be accurate to the signal that's coming in. Well, the pixels, the subpixels themselves, the red, green, and blue subpixels inside of the OLED, they just natively inherently have a color of their own. If you don't say, here's the exact shade of red I'm actually trying to display to you, if you just say, just show me the red that you make, no other instructions, show me the green you make, show me the blue you make, no other instructions, that is the native. That's what that native setting is. It's just literally show me all of the color that these OLEDs can do without any sort of control over them. So now the red you were supposed to see while you were watching standard dynamic or standard definition content, it's nowhere near the right shade of red anymore. It's just the shade of red that OLED subpixel produces without any instructions given to it. You have to wrangle that in when you're showing standard definition. You actually have to add some green and blue to the red subpixel so that you get the correct shade of red for standard definition, rather than just the native thing that puts out all by itself. But they give you that option, right? In particular, it's useful when you're using an external video processor, right? You have the external video processor do all of the color calibration, and the display itself, you're just output what you can. All of the signal is going to be like pre-done before it gets to you, the display. So if I don't want any limitation inside of the display itself, I don't want the display's processor touching this color whatsoever, just use the native format and let my external video processor handle all of it. Adobe RGB is definitely aimed at computers. They have their own color gamuts. You have sRGB and Adobe RGB, and they have very slightly different color primaries to the video standards. Adobe RGB is very, very close to Rec 709. DCI-P3. But it's not exactly the same. It's ever so slightly different. So it's there so that you can have very accurate colors when you're connecting to a PC and using that color space instead.
There you go. Stefan in Belgium. So Stefan appreciated our suggestions last week for which AV receivers he should consider to replace his 10-year-old Arkham AVR 850 that suffered an internal component failure of some kind. You could smell the telltale odor of burning electronics coming from it. He had a look at the Onkyo RZ70 that we mentioned, and even though he was able to find it from a Belgian retailer at a lower price than what was listed on Amazon Belgium, he doesn't think it's the one for him. With the Denon X3800H priced at just over €1,000 where he lives, he's tempted to go with that model for sure. But before he pulls the trigger, he wanted to double check with us whether, for his particular situation, it might be worth spending almost €700 more to get the 4800H instead. Feature-wise, the 3800 can do everything it needs, so this is really all about the supposedly bigger, better amplification and power supply built into the 4800 versus the 3800. I'm going to pre-say no, but let's just go. He previously mentioned how he's using a 7.2 speaker configuration right now, but he might be interested in expanding to 7.2.4. He's willing to add 2 channels of external amplification if necessary, but he honestly would prefer to mainly just have the AV receiver and to use the receiver's built-in amplifiers and only add a very small, inexpensive 2-channel amp for like the top rears if he ever even gets to that point. So the receiver's built-in amps matter to him, is what he's saying, and he liked what the Arkham delivered with his Class G amps. His 7 B&W XT series speakers have pretty typical listed specs. 5.25-inch woofers, 8 ohms nominal, 86 dB sensitivity, 150 watt power handling. But he's read mentions of them being not the easiest to drive, which is a lot of people say a lot of stuff.
It's objectively, because I found some full-on measurements taken of them. That's objectively not true. They're a very benign load. They're the lowest that the impedance gets on them is about 5 ohms, which is unusual, honestly. So they're a pretty genuine 8 ohm nominal. I mean, if you want to be strict about it, there may be a 6.57 ohm nominal if we're really going by the strictest of it. But unlike a lot of speakers that are listed in the specs as like 8 ohm nominal or compatible with 8 ohm, like these ones genuinely aren't getting lower than 4 ohms like at any point. So I wouldn't call them difficult to drive at all. Those speakers.
So let's talk a little bit about this. Okay. Just briefly. So what Rob's talking about here, as far as when we talk about loads, we're talking about the impedance and how low the impedance dips at certain frequencies. So when they say 8 ohm nominal, we've seen speakers that are called 8 ohm nominal that have a dip into like 3 ohms at specific frequencies. That means most of the time it's going to be fine. Most of the time it's 8 ohms or around 8 ohms. And every once in a while it dips very, very low, which means that it's going to draw a huge amount of power. It's going to request from the amplifier. Yeah, a huge amount of current, right? And that current is hard for amps to provide for any length of time, or maybe at all, depending on how low and how much current is being asked for. So when we're looking at loads and we say these sorts of things, what we're worried about is basically how much power is your speaker going to request, or how much current, or how much wattage, or whatever, however you want to measure it, is your speaker going to request during the course of your listening session. So if your speaker is surround or surround back, or even an overhead for the most part speaker, it's a couple of feet away from you, less than 5 usually, 5 or 6 feet away from you maybe. So it's quite close, which means that in order to get to the volume level that you would want it to be at during playback, it just doesn't take that much power. A lot of times we're talking about a couple of watts, maybe a few more, maybe a little bit less. Maybe it's just 1 watt. Maybe it's a fraction of a watt sometimes, depending on certain things. And so we're worried about how far away the speakers are. We're worried about how loud you're going to play them. And we're worried about how low that impedance dips at any given frequency. So, but why do people say that a speaker is hard to drive or easy to drive or whatever. If they know what they're talking about, they're looking at the impedance graph, and they're looking at this and seeing, okay, yeah, it says it's 8 ohms nominal, but it dips down into these very low impedances once or more, sometimes multiple times across the frequency range, and that's going to be problematic, especially if you're sitting all the way across the room from them. That's a hard-to-drive speaker. You might want to put amplification with it. But a lot of times we're like, it's a 4-ohm nominal bookshelf speaker or a surround speaker, and but it's pretty sensitive, and you're not sitting that far away from it. It doesn't really matter. It may be technically hard to drive if you put it all the way across the room from you, but it's not going to be all the way across the room from you. It's going to be right next to you, so it doesn't make that much of a difference. But here, I think what we're really looking at is people looking at the name B&W and saying, oh, they're a high-end speaker, so therefore they must be hard to drive.
They do have some models that are genuinely difficult to drive.
Yeah.
That brand does.
That is an undeniable fact, but many other speakers that are from other manufacturers are in fact also hard to drive, and people do not think of them that way because they're associated with a different brand. Here we're looking at people who online are spouting garbage because they've heard it said so many times, B&W speakers are hard to drive, B&W speakers are hard to drive. Boom. The minute the B&W speaker, well, those are kind of hard. They're not the easiest to drive. Well,
pretty safe thing to throw out there, and not too many people are going to challenge you on it.
That's right.
These are not high sensitivity output champs. Like they've got very normal output sensitivity, and by the measurements, slightly lower than what we spec'd. They're like 85. Like they list them at 86, but in the objective measurements, they're like 85. So it's like, yeah, they're not throwing out tons and tons of output per watt, but they're not anything that I would call a difficult load to drive at all. No.
Right. So we sometimes have to look past that, what people say online, and by sometimes I mean almost always, because these things happen. I cannot tell you to this day how many times I read on Reddit or whatever, people just spouting the same nonsense over and over again. Yamahas are this and Denons are that, and Onkyos catch on fire. I mean, for a while, Onkyos did catch on fire. That is
a small number of them, but yes, it happened. Yeah,
it happened. But now that's their thing. You can say that, and people won't really question you, and you'll be able to point to an article that says, "Hey, look, this Onkyo caught on fire." You're like, "Yeah, okay, that one did. You're right." And yes, there was an overheating issue, but that's all been solved. That was many, many generations ago. So this is just garbage people say online. Sure. I
can't blame him for thinking that and hearing it, though, because that's fully expected. I get where you're coming from.
The reason why I'm talking through all this is because when you have a brand of speaker, any brand of product, you often will get sucked into simply by the amount of information or amount of things that are out there that are saying the same thing, to believing like, sure, not this many people can say this and not have it be true. Surely it must be true. In my experience, the more people say it, the more I question it. If you have a bunch of people telling you that Denons are analytical and therefore they sound different than Yamahas, or even worse, Denons are analytical and Marantzes are another thing that is not exactly the same as a Denon, because that is surely what is inside of it.
You can change that little high frequency roll off in the top tier models. So we found out what the Marantz sound really is.
Yeah, I just the more I hear people or read people say a thing, the more I question it. So and I want to be clear here. In my AV career, before I started working in this industry, and even to a certain extent after I started working in the industry, there was a lot of stuff that just was in there. Like Harman Kardon,
you're not
going to
get in trouble for repeating it. It's just it's the common refrain.
You don't get in. It's like the shopping cart thing. There's people out there who will judge you, but they're not going to say anything. That sort of thing. there's enough people out there that will agree with you that you can just say it and get away with
You're
it.
part of the crowd.
And it took me a while to get past that. So so in this case, B&W being associated with being hard to drive is just an association that people are safe to say and safe to believe without having to actually do any research or to even just spend 5 seconds Googling.
Well, and also, if he had said he had a different series of B&W speakers and it said the same thing, I would have been like, yep, that's true. So, yeah, it's a good thing he mentioned the exact series. But yeah, I mean, he's wondering, it's a modest spec bump on paper. He can see that for himself, right? We're talking, was 105 or 115 or something, 110 or whatever it is, watts per channel in the 3800, and then it's like 125 watts per channel for the 4800. So he's not even like, oh, it's some kind of massive spec bump, but is there a real difference? Is that purely marketing? It's completely not worth it. And it's like, no, the truth falls somewhere in between. There is an objective difference. Basically, the easiest way I can say it is, because both the 3800 and the 4800, they use a shared power supply. And they actually can, if there's one speaker that for some reason needs more power than all the other speakers for a moment, it can do that. It can dump more power into one channel than the rated watts per channel, that's on the spec sheet there. It can do that with its shared power supply. And the X4800, for a brief moment, if it's needed and there's only one speaker calling for it, can dump about 100 watts more into one given speaker than all of the other speakers. 100 watts more than the 3800H can. In this case, that means that for that momentary peak out of one speaker for a short amount of time, the 4800 can give you about 3 decibels more headroom. And on an ongoing basis, it has a genuine about 30 watt per channel advantage. 2 channels driven, we're talking, not all 9 channels driven. But that means slightly less than 1 decibel extra coming out. So it's not pure marketing fluff. It's not that or the spec sheet is lying to you. It's like there actually is an objective, measurable difference between these two in terms of the built-in amplification. But is there value in that? Is that €700 worth it for that? And it's really, really challenging for me to ever say that it is, because, we're talking about headroom of 1 to maybe 3 decibels, which is not nothing, but it's not a lot. And then where I always end up falling is, okay, for that same €700, what could I do with that? Could I get a kind of beefy 2-channel amp and power my front, left, and right speakers off of that external 2-channel amp, take a considerable load off of the AV receiver and do things that way for the same amount of money in total, but actually get greater performance gains? Well, yeah, you can. Just flat out, yes, you can. So where I end up landing is, okay, if you don't want any external amps, that means you might want as many as 11 amplifiers built in. That's kind of why I mentioned the OnQ RZ70, but that would mean I step all the way up to the Denon X6800H. And I can justify doing that if you can afford it, because yes, you get 11 amps built into it, not 9. All 11 of those amplifiers are more capable than even the X4800H, so it's a larger gap between the 6800H amps and the 3800H amps. And then you also get features that just don't exist on either the 3800H or the 4800H, like being able to support front wide speakers if you want to, being able to decode DTS X Pro instead of just regular DTS X. There's some actual feature differences there between those. So I end up stratifying of, I'm either going to get the 3800 or go all the way up to the 6800. I find it very hard to land on the 4800, because if I want more amplifier power, I'll just add an amp to the 3800 and the same total price, I'll get a greater performance difference without the price being different. But he's like, he doesn't really want a kind of sizable external amplifier. He's willing to add like a Fosse 2-channel amp to power the top rears or something like that. But I'm like, could you see your way to a Emotiva Base X, which do sell in Europe at reasonable prices? You could get like the A3, which gives you more power than the built-in 4800 amps for about €700, and you power your left, center, and right off of an Emotiva Base X A3, and there you go. And it's it's 1 rack unit high. It's not a gigantic thing. It's nice and svelte, and it looks good. So I still end up landing there ultimately. But regardless, I do think the value is in you getting the 3800H. It's very hard for me to justify the 4800. So there you go.
Yeah, there you go. Dale has collected a bunch of problems and questions in his home theater setup, so let's see if we can work through them. All right, Dale. We're gonna speed run this. So he's got Apple TV 4K plugged into a Denon X3800H receiver. Whenever he plays a movie that's not in Atmos, the front panel says multi-channel in. Is that what it's supposed to say?
Yes. Straightforward. Yes. The Apple TV 4K actually does all audio decoding inside of itself. In the case of Atmos, it outputs it as multi-channel PCM plus metadata, so it's the Dolby Matte format. All the other audio codecs are decoded inside of the Apple TV 4K itself, and it just outputs multi-channel PCM. So that is exactly the way it's supposed to be. You're not going to see Dolby Digital or Dolby Digital Plus unless you manually select, I want you, the Apple TV 4K, to output Dolby Digital 5.1 all the time. Like, no matter what comes in, just always retranscode that into a Dolby Digital 5.1 container and only ever output that. So there's no switching between things. It's either going to say Atmos or it's going to say multi-channel in.
Okay. He used to have the option to press any of the Denon Remote's listening mode buttons, the movie, music, or game, and he would get a list of available options that would include Dolby Surround, DTS, Neural X, and other ones. But now when he presses a listening mode button on the remote, he only sees options for multi-channel in stereo or all channels stereo. What gives? Yeah, didn't that change in a more recent model or something?
Well, that's where the thing I mentioned previously, it's that continuous audio setting. The continuous audio setting just outputs one multi-channel output signal at all times and never ever changes, and now you don't have the option of doing anything because it's always outputting a 7.1 signal no matter what, and you lose your upmixing features in your AV receiver. I'm almost dead certain that's what that is. So I'll have the link from
I need to go into my Apple TV 4K because I think my receiver always says Atmos.
So there's the Apple support page. I'll link to it to show you how to turn off that continuous audio setting. I'm almost certain that's what it is. The only other thing that it could be is, if you didn't mention it in your email, but if you actually, in your AV receiver, in your Denon receiver, for some reason change that to a 5.1 or 7.1 amplifier configuration, then it will limit itself and it won't do Atmos anymore. So maybe you have 7 speakers and you're like, well, why do I need to set the amp assign to 9 or 11 channels in my Denon? I'm only using 7, so I'm going to set it to 7.4 in your case with the 3800H plus zone 2, right? Because that's one of the options. You can do that. If you did that in your amp assign, you're going to lose the Atmos thing. So it could be a receiver setting. It's more likely that continuous audio setting in your Apple TV 4K.
Okay. He's got a bunch of 4K movies backed up on his NAS. Everything is connected to his network via Ethernet, so no Wi-Fi. He successfully used both Plex and the Infuse app on his Apple TV 4K to play these files before, but now they constantly freeze during playback or refuse to play at all. Strangely, they would play using the VLC app, but only with stereo sound. So do we have any idea about what could have gone wrong here and how to fix it?
Continuous audio.
Oh, all right. Well, there you go.
That setting is messing things up left and right. It is the most likely culprit for all the things that have ailed you, because all these problems started happening at the same time. Like, yeah, there was an update. They added continuous audio to the Apple TV 4K. I think that's the culprit.
So he's gone ahead and converted a small spare bedroom into a dedicated enclosed home theater. The room is only 10 by 11, but he's put together a 5.2.4 configuration in there using a pair of SVS PB1000 Pro subs. Wow, that's a lot of sub for those two
dimensions. Yep.
Yeah, B&W CM3 tower fronts and CM5 center, and a pair of SVS satellites, prime satellites as surrounds. I originally had another pair of CM3 towers as surrounds, but they took up too much space, y'all think, and were difficult to position in the room. And if he's being honest, he doesn't love the 3 B&W speakers across the front. They sound okay for movies, but he would like improved sound quality for when he's listening to music. We will get to acoustic treatments in the next question, but right now I'd like to ask us about speakers. He was thinking he'd get a pair of 3 SVS Ultra Series speakers to maybe better match his prime satellite surrounds, which he likes, but then you heard us mention they're not really the biggest fans of the new Ultra Evolution series. What would we recommend? I don't have a problem. Rob has a problem with the Ultra Evolution series speakers. Sure. I think they sound fine. So you've got tower speakers in here, which is, and I have had a smaller room with larger tower speakers, and I have found that I've had problems because of it. And I don't know if it's the speakers themselves. I mean, because I don't know what's. Did he say what speakers he's got? He does.
Yeah, the BMWs.
I've not heard these SCM3 tower fronts. I would imagine that it is maybe the B&Ws have a sound, which sometimes they do, which could be bothering you, or it could also just be the physical size of the speaker and how these speakers are designed. Tower speakers in general are designed to be in larger rooms and therefore don't really resolve as well for a stereo listening experience, or even just music in general. They sound okay for movies because movies, there's so much going on. It's hard to be like too much distracted by a couple of speakers not being properly placed or whatever. I would think that overall you would find, even if you stuck with B&W, things would sound better if you had physically smaller speakers that you could place a little bit easier.
But that doesn't get them away from having to buy some new speakers. Like you can't just magically shrink your towers and save all that money.
So my point here is, if you're like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go and like you're like, okay, Rob doesn't know what he's talking about. I'm gonna get SVS Ultra Evolution speakers, and because I had towers before, I'm gonna get towers again. That's what I'm trying to steer you away from.
Sure. Yeah, that's fair.
I would highly recommend you get a speaker that's appropriate for the distance that you're sitting from, and also the space that you're in. So stay away from towers. Get yourself a bookshelf, maybe even a small. Maybe we were just talking before, like why would you get the 5 1/4 instead of the 6-inch Klipsch speaker? I'm like, well, this is the reason, because you're sitting awfully close and you need to be able to really adjust these speakers as well as you possibly can. So yeah, I would get a smaller bookshelf speaker for your left and rights, whatever brand you end up going with. If you could go with SVS, fine.
Yeah.
If you decide not to, then Rob will have a recommendation.
Well, I mean, I'd get some SVS Prime series speakers. That's what they cost less, and they sound great. Like there's this weird feeling like, oh, if I don't get the Ultras, somehow I'm missing. I'm like, no, man. Like I personally like the Primes better than the Ultra Evolution. I liked the Ultra series very much, but that's gone now. So I have no problem if you went ahead and get the Primes. It's a really good center speaker. That Prime center is really, really good. Very, very large. Unexpectedly large. Make sure it's physically going to fit. But yeah, getting some SVS Prime bookshelf and Prime center speakers, I could definitely get on board with that. If you just want something that is different for whatever reason, then I would point you to Hisense Signature Series, the now SE2 across the board. I probably, in this very small room, wouldn't get the CMT 340 SE2s in there. You absolutely don't need that size and output capability. Those brand new 170 SE2s, my goodness, is that some wonderful response in those clippable measurements. So yeah, a handful of those might be a very good alternative choice.
There you go. Actually, just before we get to acoustic treatments, is there a dedicated media player that we recommend for playing back local files? His Apple TV 4K seems good for streaming prior to when he started having the audio issues. And he's also used a Roku and NVIDIA Shield in the OSMC box before. But he'd like a box that's really, really good for playing back local files, including FLAC and uncompressed music files. Any suggestions? I mean, we've suggested the one that Rob's going to suggest a number of times, so go ahead.
I'm going to point you to a Zidoo. Yes, I like the Zidoo players quite a bit, particularly for when you are backing up your own physical discs. They make it easy where you don't actually have to convert those discs to an MKV. You can do the very basic, hey, just back up this entire disc one for one. Give me a BDMV file folder with the whole darn thing in there. Not everything can play that back. The Apple TV 4K can't play that back. The Plex can't play that back, but the Zidoo players can. So you can do simpler disc backups if you're doing that at all, and play it back straight as though exactly the same as if you had plugged in a physical disc via the Zidoos. But they're also very, very good network players for any type of completely lossless audio format, fully gapless playback on all of the lossless audio formats. So I think they're a very good choice. Get a Zidoo.
There you go. Okay, so room treatments. This small spare bedroom doesn't have any at the moment. He's got a thick rug on the floor, but that's about it for right now. There's another problem with your audio.
Exactly.
Yeah, I would just start there.
Except
start. Why does this question always last?
But how much space do you have to add a whole bunch of thick treatments?
Yeah. He's got a thick rug on the floor, but that's about it. His coworker gave him 4 Arctica Arctica? Sonolock slat panels from Costco. If these are what I think they are, I saw these
They're
the
exactly
other day.
what you're picturing.
Okay. Are these any good? If so, where should he put them so they'll be the most help? And since he's guessing, we'll say that they're too thin on their own. Is there something you could do to modify them to make them thicker and more useful? Yeah. So these are the things that have the wood paneling on front, and then
They're
behind
wood
it,
slats.
it's got like a half inch of.
They're 2.1 centimeters in depth. They're less than an inch. 2.54 centimeters is 1 inch. These are 2.1 centimeters from front to back. These are doing next to nothing. These are, like we can say, to be completely technically correct, then some of the very highest frequencies are ever so slightly being attenuated. So technically they can get away with calling them an acoustic panel of some sort, but these are doing absolutely next to nothing. I would much rather just put up some 3.5-inch spaced insulation panels without these slats in front of them.
You do not need slats.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to use these purely as visual decoration, knock yourself out. You got them for free from your friend. But I wouldn't even bother modifying them. I literally, if you just want to put them in front of a 3.5-inch, 4-inch thick panel that you make from a regular bat of rock wool insulation, just as a visual treat for yourself, fine. But other than that, I wouldn't even consider these acoustic panels myself.
Yeah, they're art. That's it. Yeah, so regular panels is a solution. And do that first, if you can.
Yes.
Do this. Do the acoustic panel. Like, people love to buy speakers, and I understand that, and they want to upgrade their speakers, and they want to have a better sound. And unfortunately, I think what ends up happening is people buy the speakers, they go, oh, it doesn't sound as good. And then we say, put some room treatments in there, and then they put the room treatments in, and they're like, oh my God, I love my speakers so much now.
Yes.
Maybe, hopefully, that's where they end up at.
Where do the panels go? Corners, if you can. Corners are the first place to start because bass trapping is the number one important thing. Next would be the front wall. Put them right behind your front speakers on the front wall. That's the next place to treat. Depending on how close you are to the back wall, and I imagine you're fairly close in a 10-foot by 11-foot room.
I would think so, too.
Back wall would be the next. If you're still noticing anything weird with imaging, you could try the first reflection points on the side walls. But often you get some corners treated, maybe just the back corners, and then you treat the front wall. You're going to be in pretty good shape.
I like the back wall, too, if you can.
Back wall, too, very often.
Yeah, behind your head.
Helps with the dialogue a lot.
Yes. So the way to do this is to do the room first and then get the speakers.
Yes.
But do the room first so that you know what your current speakers are going to sound like in that room. Because then if you do it the other way, you get the speakers and you're already unhappy with the speakers, and then that you just bought, and then you put them in your room and you put the acoustic panels in there, and your speakers sound better, and you're like, oh, my speakers were such an upgrade. No.
Yeah.
The acoustic panels were the upgrade. Okay. That's where you start with the acoustic panels. You can listen to the speakers you currently have and decide if you need to upgrade them or not. And then you can actually hear the upgrade you have. Lior is about to swap out his 106-inch projection screen for a 120-inch acoustically transparent silver ticket screen with a woven screen fabric. The larger screen size will give him a greater than 45-degree field of view, which means he can put all three of his front speakers behind the screen, which is something he's wanted to do for a long time. His front three speakers are a pair of what is the B&W? Thing going on today.
It's been a theme this week, yeah.
His front three speakers are a pair of B&W 603 S2 towers and the matching HTM6 S2 center, which we have a picture of, which is like a MTM design, but the tweeter is
elevated,
not in the center; it's elevated. Yeah. As we can see, the tweeter of the HTM6 S2 is elevated, so it's not just a standard MTM design with the center points of all three drivers lining up. But he has always read about this. That was the sigh. That pause was me taking a deep breath so I could sigh.
Yeah, you know what's coming.
But he's always read about how any sort of MTM center is a compromise. God, I hate the internet. I just hate it. I just hate it. People just so much want to say things that will bring other people down so they can feel bigger. And that's what it comes down to. Like, I want to hate on something so that I can feel superior to you.
Well, it's all about the ratio. More thumbs up than thumbs down.
He's always read about how any sort of MTM center is a compromise and that MTM speakers actually perform better if they're positioned vertically instead of horizontally. The original HTM6 speaker actually had it mentioned in the manual that you can place it vertically despite the offset tweeter, but the S2 version doesn't have that same text in its manual. So he's wondering, should a center go vertically or horizontally behind his new screen? He'll be able to have all three tweeters at the same height no matter what, but will he get better sound from his center's position vertically despite the offset tweeter? So
I have a straight ahead answer to give.
I just put it back there and just stop worrying about it. You could, if you really were worried about this and you really wanted to contact somebody about it and figure out what the exact right answer, you would reach out to B&W and ask them, and you would not listen to the customer service person. You would insist on speaking to an engineer who worked on speakers or speaker designer or anything like that, and you would talk to that person. And if they didn't do this, getting ready for the sigh, then you should not listen to what they say. So that's what it should come down to.
And of course, before you even get the screen, you could try it for yourself.
Yes.
You don't have to have the screen in place. You could try horizontal versus vertical, which of course is the real answer that we should give. And you could test it for yourself. And even if it's a sighted test and completely biased and you want one of the orientations to win before the other, it's your setup and it really doesn't matter. You could try them both for yourself and decide that way.
Yes.
But I am going to say, if for some weird reason you're totally not willing to do that, you, Lior, should put this speaker vertically. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Not for any kind of objective performance reason.
Say there's no science behind that.
But because you asked this question, you should orient it vertically.
Yeah. No one else should, though. Everyone else should have it horizontal.
It really barely matters.
It's just so little matters in this
But
this case.
Got to the point of even asking this question, which means that you should 100% put it vertically. If you're not willing to try for your own ears, even sighted is totally fine. If you're not willing to try it, you should put it vertically. I'm very sure of that.
If you spend any time around cyclists, and I apologize in advance if you've had to suffer being around cyclists, because they're as bad, if not worse, than audiophiles.
Yeah.
Then you have heard somebody say something about how important it is to have the clip-in pedals. The pedals, the cleats on your shoes, and you clip them into your pedals, which are called clipless pedals because screw you, that's why. And they will tell you with a straight face how much more power you get from having clipless pedals and clipping into them and then pedaling, and everything is so much better, and it's a game changer, and it makes all the difference in the world. And there is literally zero science behind it. Every bit of science that has looked at it has shown that the only time you get any sort of power, extra power, is when you pull up. And if you are a road cyclist, which all these people are.
Yep.
Because mountain bikers who could actually benefit from this are like, I don't want to clip into my pedal because I sometimes need to put my foot down real fast, and I'm going to kill myself trying to get off this bike. Some of them will have clip-in pedals. They will do it. All right. They're very confident. They've been doing it for years, and they never put their foot down. Most mountain bikers will have flat pedals because they don't want to die. They don't want to break their neck, run into a tree when they can't get their foot down in time. All right. Or fall off a mountain. But road cyclists insist on having clipless pedals because they say it has so much extra power. And when they say it to me, I say the same thing that Rob just said to you. Oh, yeah, you should definitely have clipless pedals. You should definitely have them. There's no science behind it. You only get the extra power when you pull up. The only time you pull up is when you come up from a start or occasionally up a hill. But you can't do it consistently because it takes thought and it's hard to do. And everybody pedals down. They don't pedal up. The people who say they do are lying. They do it when they think about it, and they never think about it.
Tends to be easier to use your quadricep than your hamstring. So.
One would think, Rob. The silver ticket screen comes with a black backing. He would assume this is to block any light that makes it through the acoustically transparent screen and then reflects off the front wall, and would otherwise come back through the screen to the viewer's eyes? Question mark.
Yep, that's what it's there for. Black backing.
But he has painted the front of his wall a dark color already. So would he gain any benefit from not using that black backing on the screen? One less thing for the sound to go through, right? Silver Ticket does state that they recommend using this black backing no matter what, but maybe they're just covering their bases. What do we say? I would use it. 1,000,000%.
You said a dark color. You didn't say matte black. And
well,
your
even
speakers
matte
are back
black
there.
still reflects. I mean, it's not black. It's not. It's not whatever that stupid color is.
And
It's a black.
your speakers are back there, and they got their little shiny metal tweeters on there. Honestly, that black backing is basically speaker grill cloth. It is not impacting the sound in any significant way. You're not gaining performance by removing that tiny little layer.
Even if it did slightly attenuate the high frequencies, your room correction program will account for that and boost it up
And
to
your-
0.01.
And your center's
decibels.
vertical now, so that's going to fix everything.
Oh, that fixes everything right there.
Yeah.
We are not making fun of you, sir. I want to make that
making fun
extremely
of
clear.
the
Lior.
internet.
I am mad at the internet. I am mad at people who try to tell other people what to do based on nothing other than the fact that they've already done it and they don't want to feel stupid.
Which is fair.
And I just it will make no difference. Okay, place it speaker however you want. Use the black backing. It will make no difference. If you take the black backing off, you run the risk of being able to see your speakers or other things through.
You're going to catch a glint off a tweeter sometime, and then you're going to be like, damn, should have put that black backing.
Should have put it back. Should have put it on there. Yeah. Adam finally got around to running DRAC live room correction on his Emotiva XMC2 Pre-Pro, and it highlighted and confirmed for him that he has a major problem with one of his speakers. He uses a pair of Bic Acoustek. I haven't heard this name in a really long time.
We do
PL89 towers in his front left and right, as his front left and right speakers, and his left tower has a blown tweeter. The DRAC measurements make this clear as day.
Yes, so we can see a graphic measurement of his
I
right
at the
speaker.
First measurement, I'm like, it looks pretty okay to me. And
Sure does. That's the right speaker, and left speaker. It's like, all your treble is gone, sir. And yes, that is definitely an indication of a tweeter that is not functioning in that left speaker versus the right speaker.
So he's tried applying a custom EQ to both speakers to see how they would respond, just to see what sort of difference DRAC would be able to make. Another spelling error. The differences in the measurements are clearly visible, but not much change in the treble, even for the right speaker with the tweeter that is still working. Scrolling past all those pictures. So here's the thing. He doesn't really have the disposable funds right now to buy a whole new set of front speakers, and big speakers don't really seem to be available anymore. Yeah, I know. There's been no response from them about repair options or replacement parts. So Adam follows a lot of DIY and modifications forums already. Plenty of people have posted about modding their BIC speakers, and since he definitely needs at least one replacement tweeter, he's thinking he might go ahead and replace both the tweeters and the towers and see if it can give himself a bit of an upgrade to the sound quality as a byproduct. Boy, get ready to be disappointed. One tweeter that frequently gets mentioned is the DS18 Pro DR250. Whatever. It's a flush mount 2-inch compression tweeter that is apparently a drop-in replacement for a lot of horn tweeters from the likes of Klipsch and Bic. At $42 a piece, it's not terribly expensive. Tweeters and many speakers cost like $1. So
but this is retail, though. So
I understand, but still, it seems very expensive to me. And it supposedly physically fits by just unscrewing the 4 screws that hold the Bic horn in place, and then screwing this right on where the horn used to be. The issue is some people say it fits the PL89 towers perfectly, and others say the PL89 uses the horn uses different size screws, so the tweeters won't just be a simple drop-in replacement. He doesn't want to buy something that doesn't fit. Well, buy it from someplace with a return policy. Let's do that.
I mean, he gave me a link to Amazon. I'm like, Amazon will take it back.
I will take it back.
Buy one to start. If it works, buy the other one. If it doesn't, send it back. I mean, it's $42. Amazon will take it back.
Buy them both. But for like, I feel like the Bics didn't cost much more than $42.
They cost more than that. I mean, a new pair of tower speakers is going to cost more than $84.
I know, but still. Anyways, so we happen to know, maybe our listeners will be able to check. No, just buy them and then send them back if it doesn't work. And if it's just the size of the screw...
If it's the size of the screw holes, that can be modified.
I mean, you just get a little bit more... Just get a little bit more insistent on the screwing end of the screw, and that problem will be fixed immediately.
I kind of hate this. Like, I think they're going to look pretty darn strange. And
I don't care about that.
I'm not super confident about, you didn't change the crossover.
I know. That's where they say it's a drop-in replacement. Who says it's a drop-in replacement? And what do the measurements look like afterwards? And what does everything else look like afterwards? There's a lot of questions I have about this.
Yeah.
I would take all of this with a huge grain of salt. You could do it. You could do it and then run your measurements just like you just, get similar graphs to what you have and see what you end up with.
Absolutely.
But don't be surprised if it looks really strange. So, I don't know.
To me, though, this one is like $84. It's Amazon. They'll definitely take a return. So I'm like, I'd be willing to take a flyer on this and see what happens. Yeah.
Yeah. Another option would be get an adapter plate that he knows for sure will fit his towers. Again, take out the horn, put this adapter in place, and then you could attach a soft dome tweeter that the DIY forums recommend. It's Morel Cat 378, whatever. He has always found the default BIC tweeters be a bit harsh and bright, but he wanted their output capabilities, high sensitivity, and affordable price, so they still made sense as his choice of speakers. Maybe switching to a soft dome tweeter would help.
I'm pulling at my collar on that one.
I don't know, man. These are definitely cost more, but $100 each, and they would need to. And he would also need to buy or 3D print the adapter plates. And then some people also recommend 3D printing a waveguide. Oh, man. So do we have any advice to offer on all of that? And again, any AVRant listeners who might know might maybe reach out so that we can put you and Adam in touch. If you are a DIY person who does this sort of thing and has specific firsthand scientific knowledge, like not just I did it and my speaker didn't catch on fire.
I think one of the issues as well
me.
Is that there was a big PL89 and then there was a big PL89-2.
Right.
And I'm speculating that might have been the issue right there, is that the PL89 might have had slightly different screw hole sizes than the PL89-2. That seems entirely plausible to me.
Yeah, I don't know.
I would not do the soft dome adapter thingy one. It costs way too much. Juice is not worth the squeeze on that one. I'd be willing to give a flyer on that compression one because it seems like a low risk way of doing it, and there's no way you're going to buy a whole new pair of speakers for under $100 that can have this kind of output capability that your Bics had. So I'd be willing to take a flyer on that compression one. Out of all of this, I think that's the reasonable one to try because I don't think it's going to be too hard to return them if they just physically don't fit for you.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody reaches out to us, we'll let you know. Who do we have left?
Just Michael in Newfoundland, and I might email him back because I want him to get an answer quickly. But there we go. That was it for what's left on the list. Michael, you'll still be answered on the podcast next week.
All right. So we want to thank our listeners of the week. We want to thank our 119 patrons over at patreon.com/AVRant podcast, as well as anybody in the future who decides to send us a donation through our PayPal account at avrant.com. Where you can click on the Buy a Cup of Coffee link.
Those are the ways to support us financially. But yes, patreon.com/AVRant podcast is the place to go if you'd like to sign up to make an automatic monthly donation nice and easy for you over there until your credit card expires. So a big old thank you to the 119 patrons who are currently supporting us. Thank you.
We also want to thank those who sent in notes of gratitude, including John, Stefan, Dale, Michael, and Gurinder. Thank you very much for thanking us.
That's right. Those names one more time were John, Stefan, Dale, Michael, and Gurinder. Thank you very much for the notes of gratitude and encouragement. We do appreciate them. And a big, big thank you to everybody who continues to listen and send in your questions.
If you want to get your question answered, all you have to do is ask. You ask by emailing us at question@avrant.com. For AVRant, I'm Tom Antry.
And I'm Rob H. Now go out and listen to something.
Want your question answered? Send it to question@avrant.com. This is AVRant.
Now go out and listen to something.